Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages. My wife, who suddenly looks like she's shrouded in extra shadow than before. We may have to turn
Yeah,
the
I don't
light
know
up.
what happened there.
That is really weird. It was really bright before.
It was.
And the mysterious stranger at the bottom right, who is visiting once again from, what was it, Saskatchewan?
It's about right. Yeah. Right over yonder.
Right over yonder. We could almost like fly kites over each other's house if it was windy enough.
Right.
I mean, it would have to be really windy, but yeah. So what is going on, everybody? Everyone who is here, it is I, DH Thorne, my wife Camilla, and the illustrious. We call him Seige, but he also goes by CJ.
Siege is, the short version of Siege.
Siege is
Whatever
much more
floats off.
Yeah. It's very ass bad. It's very
Oh, yeah.
it's very ass bad.
Thank you.
So he is one of the mods on the Discord. He is also a friend of the family. Well, he's a friend of everybody. Like Fleshy, he comes over, he hangs out, we do stuff. So we are going to be talking about a whole bunch of random weird shit tonight because I'm sure a lot of you guys are noticing, well, just in general, how normalcy is unraveling very quickly. It's good to be right, although I wish I wasn't right about some of these things. And of course, I could still be wrong, but I don't believe in being a total.
You know how many times I said I wish we were just crazy instead?
I mean, no, I don't want to be crazy
In
instead,
the words of Bill Murray from Ghostbusters, we will go quietly, happily.
Yeah, really. Like, where are the good drugs? Get me to where the good drugs are in the like I've said, if I am really far off wrong, like in the bad direction, my plan is to basically get myself checked in.
Yeah.
I'll probably know within like let's say a month, but probably within 6 months to a year, I will know for sure whether I need to get checked in. I don't think I will be though. I may get checked in just for being right though, because some of the shit. Anyway, so what's on everybody's mind tonight? We are probably going to be talking a lot about the weird shit going on in the world, but I would like to maybe begin this, and I'm sorry if I'm echoing a little bit. Actually, I have an idea, honey.
I don't think you're echoing at all. I'm not
I don't hear an echo on my
I
end.
heard an echo. Okay, so it's no big deal. If we are echoing, guys, just let us know. We're all just about in the same room. So,
I checked the sound when we started up, and we all sounded good.
Okay. Yeah, if there is a tiny echo, I can't really help that because we're in basically the same room. So I'm doing my best. I'm going to try to angle my microphone so it doesn't pick anybody up by accident. But anyway, some of it can't be avoided. So I sort of wanted to start tonight's live stream with a little bit of I don't know if you call it a monologue or a soliloquy. It doesn't have to be hours long. So feel free to just jump in if it seems like I'm getting silly. But what I wanted to begin with is that, and we were talking about this we mentioned this a little bit briefly in a car ride when we were going to the store today, me, Siege, and Camilla. And the concept I'm bringing up here is the idea that if you're feeling a little bit weird, thank you, Trampus. I think you're right. It probably is mine because I have the Yeti and it's probably picking everybody up. So I apologize for that. I don't really have a way to undo that right now. We're not in a perfect little scenario here, but maybe one day I'll be a millionaire and I'll have like a setup like one of the big, podcast people have. That'd be pretty cool.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Right?
Like the big phallic mic connect right in front of your mouth.
Somewhere off of Long Island.
Make it like Thorne Rogan. But
dig it.
Mick says the echoes are just the voices in your head. I agree.
I love that. I love that so much.
I have a lot of maybe I do have so many multiple personalities and I just think that they're me. That's all cool. Anyway, I'm sure I do seem to have multiple personalities if you live with me long enough because I can sort of flip around from different attitudes about things. But anyway, when we were driving around in the car today, I had mentioned that I believe that a big part of what's going on is a show, obviously. I've been saying that for a while. But specifically, I've been saying now, I'm trying to tell you guys that what you're watching is a show whose purpose is to basically reveal the matrix to those who have any level of discernment at this point. And it's going to be increasing. The societal matrix. I'm not literally talking about in a computer matrix. Okay, like people hear that. Most people in this world, they're only possessed of a certain amount of discernment and rational cognition, right? A lot of people, and I'm not saying that to demean them. I'm just saying it as a fact. Most people are very limited in their capacity to think about these things. So when I talk about matrix, okay, throughout this video, I am not talking about a computer matrix, a simulation of that sort, okay? That was meant to be an allegory. That movie was meant to be an allegory of certain spiritual, metaphysical, and societal paradigms. It is meant to help you understand that the world that you live in is basically, I don't want to put a number on it. I feel like I want to say 80%, maybe a little less, fabricated lies, to the point where it's not just people that don't know. So what I mean by that is the people at the top know. Okay, they know. The people at the tippy top, if you follow the Q stuff, they know what the nature of reality is much better than they let on. They also have pretty much lied about virtually everything that matters. They'll let you know that, yes, electrons work this way and blah, 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 blah. They'll let you know, a lot of things. There's quite a bunch of things that are still legit, right? But it's rooted in many cases in lies. Your world, for at least your entire life, since you've been born, has been shaped by things like Hollywood, mass media, big tech, big pharma. And these are all things that I've known for a while now. And I do have to, I like to occasionally thank my wife for how awesome she is. But if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have walked down the conspiracy theorist path going on almost 20 years ago. Because, she was the first one to point out, like, hey, I don't think, 9/11 makes sense. And some of that came from her.
Notably
professor.
the Pentagon.
Yeah. So yeah. And so she kind of started turning me on to that stuff. Not that she knew everything or anything. She just, this doesn't make sense.
This doesn't make sense that there's no plane wreckage, that there's no wing holes in the Pentagon. It looks more like a cruise missile.
Yeah. And there's no photo. It's all fishy, right? At the very least, it's fishy. Let's just say. We don't know what it was. We don't know if it was or wasn't a plane, honestly. Nobody was there.
No.
I don't believe it was. I know people will, refute that.
I saw this picture earlier today, and it showed how this plane flew into, like, I don't know if it was like a lamppost or some kind of metal pole.
Mm-hmm.
And, they were, the caption was like saying, and they want us to believe that these things like flew through steel beams, you don't know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Satan Soldier, it was actually 4 buildings and we think 2 planes.
Technically 3 planes, because one was shot down. Wasn't one shot down in Pennsylvania or so?
Well, there's no wreckage there.
Wasn't it one plane per building?
There's a bunch of burn marks on the ground.
Right.
The story is that it crashed, that they took over the plane and then they nosedived in.
Yeah.
The good guys supposedly.
But it was indeed 4 buildings.
Right. It was 4 buildings because you have the Pentagon, the 2 World Trade Center buildings, and then World Trade 7.
And the one next to it, yeah.
And 7, of course, wasn't hit. And of course, someone just posted it. World Trade Center 7 did not kill itself. Whoever posted that, you get a someone give them a like, please, because that's a good comment. So here's the deal, okay? Everybody who's listening to this, I know the majority of you have an open mind. I know the majority of you guys are not prone. You guys have to understand whether it was intentional or not. Over the last couple of years, by talking about the things that I've talked about, by talking about them the way I've talked about them, I believe that whether it was intentional or not on my part subconsciously, I have weeded out the majority of closed-minded bigots, assholes, dogmatic buffoons that just parrot what the world wants you to believe. I am not saying that every single thing that I say is true. when you're on the bleeding edge of conspiracy fact, you are going to break eggs. You're going to make mistakes because the information comes in fast and furious. It is not easy to separate fact from sensationalism. Take, for example, of course, Dan, we did a whole video last week. Dan asked, have you touched on what happened in Florida recently? Yes, we did. If you're talking about the Florida mall, yes, we absolutely did. My last live stream, we definitely talked about that. Or I talked about it. No, did I have somebody on for that? Why am I drawing a blank?
Not that I remember.
No, I was supposed to be on, but shit happened and I didn't get to join you.
I think I was alone. Yeah.
Yeah, you were alone last week.
Yeah. So yeah, we talked about that. We're still working on that actually on the Discord. I actually just created a new channel on the Discord called Aliens and Shit, which is meant to be for everything alien and rational conspiracy, like things that you like. I don't want to hear about flat Earth. If you come onto my Discord talking about flat Earth or the Jews or any of that stuff, I am going to wipe your ass out of my server immediately. That doesn't mean that there aren't Jewish people involved or that there isn't conspiracies regarding the cosmology of the universe, the world, etc. There is absolutely things to talk about: hollow Earth, hollow Agartha, all that, hollow moon. Those are all valid questions. Flat Earth, there is no sky. It's all water above the clouds, the firmament. If you're taking all that literally, you're a creationist moron, and I don't want to hear from you. I'm sorry. I hate to be like that, but I don't have time.
Especially when you know that movement itself is a psyop.
It's
proven.
Absolutely a psyop, proven a psyop. I can't say for sure that like Ken Ham, for example, of creationism is, but if I had to bet money, and with no negative repercussion other than losing money, I would bet that it's somewhere at the end of the rainbow, Ken Ham and Answers in Genesis is a CIA op. If I had to be honest with you. It is absolutely, as someone who studies, informally studies, just as a hobby, rhetoric, and how one engages in proper philosophical inquiry. I am trained just because I'm an autistic fuck, if no other reason. I'm not really autistic, but I feel like it. Because I have that tendency, I spot fallacies and sophistries very quickly. That doesn't mean I never use them or whatever. Sometimes just in casual conversation they happen. You don't mean to. It's just how people talk, right? We've all been sort of trained to use sophistry in our normal lives. I try not to, but it does happen. But I can spot it very easily, and I spot the circular reasoning. I spot all of the arguments that are nonsense, and it's got to go away. No offense to those people, but you've been indoctrinated just like someone who's on the woke left, into hating white males and all that stuff. It's the same kind of madness, and I want nothing to do with it. So no, if you come to the Discord, that is not what that channel is meant for. It is meant for, well, you'll see what it's meant for. If you go there, it's about aliens. It's about finding out that the U.S. corporation was formed in 1871 or 4. I think it's 1871. And that was the end of the American Republic. And the talk on the street is that stopped under Trump in 2018, I believe. That the U.S. corporation finally went completely bankrupt. It's over, and a new republic is being created in the background with all of this chaos going on. So that's what that channel is for. Now, what I'm trying to tell you guys is that my prediction, and it's a hard prediction, I will probably check myself into the insane asylum if I'm really wrong. I'm okay being wrong about parts of this, but I think in general, if I'm wrong completely, I will have to check myself in for a while, because that means I've lost touch with reality. But in my humble opinion, and it's not that humble, we all, to a degree, sorry about the echo, we all absolutely accept to a degree that we are living in a at least societal matrix. Okay, we're not living in a world that is like everybody else's. I should say we are living in a world that's like, I'm not living in the world that everybody else lives in. When I see a news report, when I see something happen, I immediately know, oh, this is probably a psyop, this is probably a false flag, this is probably staged, this is probably that. So you guys are ahead of the curve on average. Most of you guys listening to this are way ahead of the curve. And yes, Max, you are still here, and you are still an asshole. In fact, we are all assholes because that is how we develop in the womb. That's the first thing that happens, is literally your asshole. Look it up. It's hilarious. We are living in the equivalent of the Matrix. I mean, it is that brazen. I'm using the word again, honey. It is that big. I do not mean a computer matrix. I don't mean that they're programming your mind with, things that make you see things that aren't there necessarily, although that may be possible. What they're doing is they're using everything from propaganda, predictive programming, and they are shaping society and public opinion, okay, from behind the scenes. Hollywood is obviously a reference. Anybody who knows anything about magic, okay, let me be clear. If you know anything about magic, and if you know who runs Hollywood, and I don't mean that in the way that I said earlier that I will ban you for, necessarily. Like, we have to be careful here, because we are still living in a time when you cannot be sincere about certain things without being accused of things that aren't true. I'll just leave it at that. But when you look at Hollywood, when you understand what that means, what that's a reference to, when you understand the level of correspondence in Hollywood and their terminology, they call them stars. What is the star card in tarot? Guiding lights, right? That's why they call them stars, guy. They're not calling these people stars in Hollywood because they're just shining bright, and they are meant to be the guiding light of civilization, of the masses. They have replaced the priests with, the priests and these things of the last, you could say religion was the operating system of the Matrix in the Pisces age. And we are absolutely living in a world that is, I'm going to say, potentially at least 80% false. And by that, I don't mean like, oh, the sky isn't blue. Okay. I don't mean that the sky is a hologram, although you never know. I don't think so. I don't believe that. What I do believe is that literally every single thing that you've been taught about life, history, the foundations of scientific inquiry, being materialism.
It's a wealth of illusion.
Right. So these people have been shaping your world since before you were born, since before most of your parents were born, probably before even my parents and grandparents were born, probably. But they have perfected that technique to the point where you literally cannot live in this world and have any kind of genuine knowledge of it without penetrating a very thick layer of deception. And every time you peel a layer back, you find another one and another one and another one and another one. And I don't know how many layers I've gone down, and there's probably a lot more to go. And it's not about necessarily, some people are going to be like, oh, I figured it out. I didn't. No, you probably didn't. I don't think anybody did. But I think that if you're asking the questions, if you're penetrating that superficial delusion, you will eventually get somewhere. Now,
it's like they created a false sense of reality.
Yeah.
Much like how me and you were when we were in Christianity. Yeah.
Correct. Yep. This is why I say Christianity, or I shouldn't say Christianity per se, because there are forms of Christianity that I don't actually include in my negative rating of Christianity.
Sure.
But there, it's one thing for them to have, like, they got the myth wrong, or they got it's one thing to do that. What you believe in the mythology is what you believe. That's not the big deal. Like, the big deal is when you let that program you and make you, especially if you listen to the way mostly Abrahamic faiths, at least the modern ones, are very much believe as we tell you or else. There's always an or else somewhere. And you guys, I'm definitely preaching to the choir here. I don't think there's anybody listening to this, even if you are a Christian, that would disagree with what I just said, because you're probably that kind of Christian that I think is okay. So ultimately, the powers that be have set up for you a gilded cage that most of us have lived in all of our lives. with the express purpose of fattening us up, having us build up a certain situation. And eventually the plan was to get rid of pretty much the vastest of majorities of us and to enslave the rest, and to do all those kinds of things. That plan has failed. I don't believe that plan is going to work. I think it's over. I think behind the scenes it's over. So right now there is a new sheriff in town who has taken over the apparatus of the Matrix. It's not total control yet. It's maybe 60%, 70%, maybe more. And all of the current events that you're watching in the world, in celebritydom, in politics especially, politics above all has always been part of the Hollywood show. I don't care what anybody tells you. If you think this fight or that fight in Congress is real, I would probably say less than 10% of those things are real. Probably closer to like 2%. Most of it is predetermined. Most of it is WWF.
Yeah.
Anybody who, or I just dated myself. WWE.
Oh, I was going to say that.
So politically, this is why I tell people, they go, oh, you talked about too much about politics. No, I haven't talked about politics yet. People go, oh, you've been talking about politics. That's why I don't follow you anymore. No, bullshit. I don't talk about politics.
This is just what's going on.
Yeah, I just talk about what's going on.
Real quick.
Yes, yeah, go ahead.
You did have a super chat.
Oh, did I? Would you mind reading them for me? My beautiful assistant wifey do?
There is no question, just from Magic and the Magic in Creating, $2. And they said later on, the least I can do to show my respect for tongue-tied, for some reason I can't read tonight. The least I can do to show my respect towards DH.
Oh, and I see a little avocado
That's awesome.
there. Thank you so much, Magic in Creating. I appreciate that. I advise you guys, I appreciate all your generosity, and I'm going to have to start saying this a little bit more every stream. I don't want you to necessarily not support me, but in the coming months, you may want to think a little bit more about how you spend your money.
Be conservative with it.
Yeah, be a little bit more conservative. I love you guys. I appreciate it. It helps me, you know. Yeah, if I said that I was rich, I'd be lying. Every penny counts around here. Don't get me wrong. We somehow live a charmed life financially, in the sense that, you know, we have a lot of people looking out for us and family and stuff like that. And so we managed to do better than we should. Let's put it that way. If we didn't have family to let us live, you know, on their property with, you know, affordable situation, we wouldn't be living in this area. I'll put it that way. So I want you guys to know that we do appreciate every dime that you guys have put towards us. Yes, this has been like a career for me. I have never been shy about telling you guys that, but it hasn't worked out as a moneymaker career. Okay. This is my life's passion. I told you guys years ago that even if the money dried up, I'd still be doing all this. It's fun. But I want to make clear, thank you very much, and consider how your means are. If you're struggling right now, don't blow money on me. All right. And if you do, buy a product that's got like some quality to it. It's not just giving me money for a live stream. Okay. Save your money. And if you're going to be smart, unless you have it already, I suggest you get at least a couple of months of, shall we say, food and medicine, especially medicine, at least 1 to 2 months. I'd probably aim for at least 1 to 3 months would be the bare minimum. Simply because if things get crazy again, you don't necessarily want to leave the house. You want to be able to stay home and avoid everything, especially if you're in a more populated area. If you're out in the country, I don't care. That's probably different. But if you're in an area sensitive to shortages, like I am, like in the suburbs, you don't have like a farm in the backyard. You don't have farmers all around you. You don't have places to hunt and fish potentially. Please do yourself a favor and just...
Or, according to town standards, you're not allowed to have certain things.
There's that too. Yeah, you might even have one of those HOAs, which is like one of the early attempts to start controlling homeownership.
No, you're not allowed to garden in our HOA, or, you know, there were towns that said you can't garden in your front yard because it's obscene.
It's an eyesore.
Yeah.
Yeah, that used to be normal. It's called the Victory Garden.
Yep.
So just prepare yourselves for some hard times that I do foresee coming. Maybe as soon as the next, I don't know, 3 months or so.
You got another super chat.
Okay, just 1 second. Yemen
Yeah.
just got attacked tonight. I don't know if you guys know this, but there's an attack going on in Yemen that could lead to, people are saying, oh, that could be World War III. I don't quite get that hyperbolic, because I know that we're supposed to get right up to the fringe, right up to the edge of World War III.
They do that with any act of war.
What's that?
They do that with any act of war these days. Oh, World War III, World War III.
True, but they're not completely wrong, because
for sure.
The point of a lot of this is to bring us right to the brink of that, to get the fucking normies to wake up. I can tell you, I'm not an expert necessarily on I can't say the word, the guy who put together especially this early in the stream, because they will start throttling you if you even say his fucking name. Dr. Who talked about mass formation, COSIS. If you look into that, he's not completely wrong. He's actually quite right. But the white hats are currently using, well, some people would argue they're not white hats, and I understand that, and maybe I'll address that a little bit tonight. But it is very clear that a new set of hands are at the controls of the Matrix, and they are currently shaping a situation to get people to wake up en masse, at least to a certain point. Now, what that entails is not bombarding them with truth. In order to wake someone up who has been indoctrinated, or in order to create a new paradigm, a new Overton window, you have to smash the old one. And right now we are watching the devolution. That's literally the word that's being used by people in the know. We're watching the devolution, which is the controlled collapse of the old world system. This means everything's going to break. But it's going to be a controlled break. It's going to hurt, but it's going to be a break. So everything's getting broken down, and the Matrix is breaking down. It's glitching all over the place. And there was an example recently of Oprah Winfrey at a recent award ceremony. What was it? Not the Oscars. What was that?
Shit's crazy.
Golden Globes.
What was it?
Was it the Golden Globes that was
That might be
recent?
it. Yeah,
Some
it was on
some ceremony.
Yeah, it was on the 8th. And if you go on Twitter, it's been trending pretty much all day. It might not be right now, but not Oprah has been trending, because everyone is noticing that doesn't look or sound or move like Oprah does. Whoever that woman is, it is probably not Oprah. The question would then arise for a normie, why? If they do notice she looks a little weird, okay, what are they told? Well, I can tell you, because as soon as I posted on Facebook, at least one person immediately started just practically copy pasting what the entertainment rags and all those are saying, which is, oh, she just lost weight, she's been sick, but nothing to worry about here. Meanwhile, she has her hairdo almost identical to Diamond from Diamond and Silk. Her mannerisms are very similar. Diamond's voice wasn't that far off from Oprah's. You could easily see how a voice coach, if given a year to get that woman to speak like Oprah, could successfully get her to sound like her. Her mannerisms are wrong. I'm not a fan of Oprah, but I grew up with Oprah. I'm 47 years old almost, okay? Oprah was a staple of Gen X life. I'm telling you right now. I'm not saying we all watched her, but just watch Married with Children, okay? Like, Peg brought her up all the time. Oprah was
There's very striking things that she does.
So she's deeply connected, allegedly, and I'm only saying allegedly because you never know. I don't know for 100%, but I think it'd be foolish to think it's untrue. Oprah is almost certainly deeply in connection with all of the Epstein stuff. There's a monologue she did where you kind of have to take it a little out of context, but you could see why someone would say she sounded like she was justifying pedophilia. She was a big fan of Weinstein, and, back well into when Weinstein was doing the worst things that he was doing. She was a big fan and friend of his. So there's a lot of allegations. The Maui fires are supposedly connected to her, because people believe that was so that she and perhaps The Rock could buy huge portions of it. But actually, Maui was supposed to be one of the American versions of those 15-minute cities.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that is also where Zuckerberg was building his bunker.
Speaking of which, somebody said they have the fake Oprah out because Oprah's in her bunker.
Hold on, I'm going to turn you down just a little bit, Seige. Hold on. You're very bassy. All right, say that again.
Someone said in the comments about Oprah, the fake Oprah's out because she's in her bunker right now.
Mhm.
That's possible, yes. That is a
That was
very
another
possible
theory.
Yep. So I personally like the idea that it's diamond. So that's my bias. I'm not saying it is.
I mean,
It's equally possible that
with
she's
the
just in
whole
hiding.
with the whole Epstein thing, it could be, you know, she's afraid of death threats if she's named.
Right. But if you look into it, Diamond of Diamond and Silk, she died. Do you know what day she died? Anybody want to look it up real quick? I can just tell you. Anybody want to look it up?
I forget what it was.
I can tell you right now.
You told me earlier, and I don't remember off the top of my head.
She died exactly 1 year to the day that the appearance of Oprah on this, whatever this was, Golden Globe award ceremony was. She's also wearing the exact same hairstyle that Diamond from Diamond and Silk was famous for wearing. She also has eyes that are almost the same. They have the same look. I read eyes for a living. I read people's energy for a living. I'm not saying that I can see through it all. I'm just saying that I'm pretty confident that I know very confidently, like 98%, that's not Oprah. And I'm about 90% confident that's Diamond from Diamond and Silk. Because we are watching a show designed to get the normies to wake all the way up. And by the way, a lot of you guys are not normies, but you're not fully awake. And I'm not saying that like, oh, I'm awake and you're not. I'm not fully awake. Okay. None of us are fully awake. We have to put that down. Remember, I've been saying for months now, clear off the table of, empty your trash onto your table of possibilities. In other words, everything's back on the table in terms of what the nature of things are, because we are entering into a period where, as I was trying to say before, in order to shape a new Overton window, you have to break the old one. So what they're doing right now is they are ripping the rug out from under civilization. And they're doing it in such a way that is leaving people who are not prepared, who do not know how to look into the deep nooks and crannies of occult truth, the deep nooks and crannies of conspiracy truth. They're yanking this rug out in such a way that it's going to leave people disoriented, confused, and scared, which makes them prime targets for mental manipulation and a new truth. My concern is that the new truth will not be completely true. That is a fear of mine. I do worry about that. I don't know if the new boss is truly going to be as good or bad as the old boss. I don't think they'll be as bad. Anything's better than genocide and slavery, I would imagine. So I'm expecting at least some deception to continue. I don't expect them to reveal all their secret programs and everything. I don't expect that. What I do expect is for that shit that is truly harming us as a civilization and species to end. I do expect that, humanity in general be liberated from pretty much the worst of it, and set back on a path of ascension again. That may take a guiding hand from higher forces. People need to understand, I did not believe in aliens or anything like that, other than maybe spiritual beings or interdimensional stuff, until recently. I had sort of a wake-up call for that, and then luckily I used to believe in a lot of that stuff, so a lot of that old knowledge is there, but I'm way out of the loop, so I'm kind of relearning it all. But my understanding would be there are absolutely higher beings involved that are, for whatever reason, very interested in us, our development, and or keeping us contained if we don't develop right. And I do think that's what's been happening. I do think that we live in the sort of zoo, whatchamacallit, the zoo for the Fermi paradox, the zoo hypothesis? I forget the word for it. It's not necessarily a zoo, but it's more like a classroom. Or a penal colony, some people would say. That's possible as well.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of agree with all of those as possible. Like Jasonius says, the Matrix, aka prison planet. Yeah.
Yep.
That doesn't mean it's a prison for us. One of the things you guys have to understand is you have to imagine that humanity as we are right now, and have been for the last 12,000 years or so, at least, because I think before that we were hyper advanced. I think the surface dwelling humans, because I think there's probably subterranean civilizations, there's probably humans all throughout the universe, not just in this galaxy. I know it sounds nuts, but I think that's very likely. I do believe that the humans on this planet are a lot like humans in a tropical third world jungle island where someone stuck a prison to stick some of the worst of civilization's bad people. And unfortunately, they got out and have been running this prison. It's sort of like in South America, Latin America, where you'll have the prisons will get taken over by the cartels. You know, I think that's kind of what's happened here. That's my gut. That's my gut feeling. I don't know if it's true, but that's my gut feeling. And for whatever reason, maybe because humanity's leaders sided with the, you know, the alien cartels, if we will. I'm just using human concepts because that's probably not what it is. I'm just speculating. Maybe because we, as our leaders, made deals with them, we are sort of written off to a degree. But I think enough people have been asking for redemption from that maybe that's going to end very soon. But we won't talk about that just yet. So all I'm trying to tell you guys, my monologue's ending, is that as these next 12 to 24 months go by, if you trust my judgment at all, don't believe everything I say. I want you guys to look into it, but I want you to be aware of your sources. Understand that if they're mainstream establishment sources, they're lying to you. But understand that everybody's lying to you right now, except for people like me. I'm not intentionally lying to you. I may be getting everything wrong. Let me look you dead in the eye. I am not lying to you, but I might be wrong about some of the things I'm saying. So please look into it yourself, do your own due diligence. But I implore you, I cannot beg you hard enough. Put away CNN, put away Entertainment Tonight, put away the words of people like Oprah, who says, oh, I've been on fat weight loss pills again. That's why I look so different. My voice has changed. My mannerisms changed. My hairstyle has changed. My eyes are changed. Everything's changed, but it's still me. Trust me. Trust me, bro. I saw it in a dream. You know, of course the foxes are going to tell you that there's nothing in the hen house, right? So all I'm saying to you guys is to open your eyes and put your head on a fucking swivel for the next 12 to 24 months. Learn to be hyper aware because things are about to break down. Massive collapses are coming of some sort. They may take longer. I might be wrong in my timing, but there's going to be a lot of chaos and then a reformation. Right now we're in the middle of devolution. They are taking out the low to mid-level people. There's going to be probably another riot, big time, like 2020 again, and they're probably going to pick a lot of people off from that. So I don't know for sure. These are just my speculative predictions based on sources and intuition. And it will be revised as we go along. This is not, I have to tell you guys, if it was up to me, we'd just be talking about non-duality all day long and gods and spirits. But I cannot in good conscience, as people call me a community leader and all this bullshit, I cannot in good conscience just make money making videos for dum-dums about what a wand is and all this kind of shit. I'm tired of it. I've burnt out on some of that because to me it's just pablum at this point. That's not what magic is about. Magic is not about wands and dumb shit. Ultimately, I am here, I believe I incarnated or reincarnated here in this life, and my karma is to help awaken humanity in this time. Just help, not lead it, not be the centerpiece, just to redeem whatever mistakes I've made in the past by helping people. I've gone through huge changes in the last 5-6 years. I think we all have. So with that said, I'm going to shut up a little bit, and I'd like Camilla and Seige now to run the show for a few minutes. But first,
you do have a super chat?
Yeah, you mentioned a super chat.
You want me to read it to you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, this one's from Gar. He gives you a Canadian 20. Consensual reality, though the conscience is shaped by the forces that you suggest, leads to this dream within a dream, though it is possible to break free to one extent or another.
Absolutely agree. I want to be clear. Breaking free does not mean you suddenly see the truth as it is. It simply means that you are no longer based in a foundation of lies. The difference is subtle but striking at the same time.
Awareness.
Yeah, it's an awareness, right? Just being aware of the fact that you're in a mental matrix prison by itself is freedom. Just being aware of the fact that it exists and that it is built out of your own mind by people who have caused you to think a certain way. Just being aware of that, you're already out, okay? because you're already free of their control as you're starting to question. You may still be limited, right? That doesn't sound like freedom. But believe me, there is no prison stronger, greater, bigger, or worse than the one built out of your own belief and mind. I know this because the last couple of years have helped break down a lot of those barriers that I put there. You know, some of them were my rational skepticism that I picked up trying to debunk my former woo beliefs. So what do you guys think? Camilla and Seige.
Yeah, I mean, shit's pretty crazy right now.
Yeah.
That's for damn sure. And you know, I like you, I can't say 100% what's going on, what's this, what's that. But shit's like so crazy right now. It's, you know, we've said this many times. Anything's on the table.
Yeah.
Anything's on the table. We got to explore all options.
Yep.
Because, you know, anything could be possible. And, you know, we got to prepare ourselves in ways that we can. If certain, you know, things are true.
What do you think, Camilla? I see you're busy there. I won't bother you if you're
Oh,
busy.
I was just sending you a message.
Oh, okay. Where, on Discord?
Yeah. I had an answer and I fucking lost it. No, it's like, you know, the whole anything is possible. I mean, it's not just, it goes above and beyond that, because with the whole AI shit going on, sometimes it's hard to tell what images are AI, what's real and what's not, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
look at the hands. That's
like all the
99%.
images of Trump with Epstein, they could look real if you look at them quick enough.
Some of them are
the
photoshopped, yes.
average normie laymen are just gonna browse through it quickly and quickly share it and spread misinformation and all this other crap and not really do the research and decipher for themselves what is real.
Correct. Yeah. And sorry, I
It's a
turned you down
slippery
a little
slope.
bit because you were bottoming out too. I think that's on my end. So
That might be my microphone's too close.
no. I think you're good. I was just letting you know in case you saw me messing around with it. I'm not just trying to get the levels right. I should have.
Oh
done
no,
that
you're
already.
all good.
I think you're right, and they have photoshopped pictures of Trump and Epstein. That doesn't mean they're all photoshopped. He absolutely was with them. I actually am on board with the idea that Trump is not a clean little, you know, bit of driven snow. All right.
Well, who in their life is perfect that hasn't said the wrong joke or the wrong sentence to the wrong person that took it too personal when it was meant harmless? Or maybe it was meant malicious. It doesn't matter, but everybody says things, everybody does things.
So long as he wasn't
Maybe it
fucking
was
kids.
locker room talk.
Yeah, maybe. Well, maybe that's all.
I'm
it was.
kidding.
Yes.
People say gross things. There are women that say worse.
Look, if you're a billionaire and you're in high society, you're getting fucked by people. Okay, I'm sorry. I would find it very shocking if he didn't have a few mistresses and a few inappropriate liaisons. That doesn't mean that he broke the law. That doesn't mean he raped anyone. That doesn't mean that he diddled kids. But that doesn't mean that he didn't have a few, you know, madams or something messing with him.
Well, look at Bill Clinton with Monica
Yeah.
Lewinsky in the Oval Office.
I guarantee you the minute you end up with, like, you know, a big enough bank account, you suddenly get weird messages from people offering crazy shit. I wouldn't doubt it. You know, if you become famous and powerful and rich enough,
Yeah, once you hit the threshold.
I mean, that's when you're gonna get the little, hey, come join us on the island.
Yep.
Hot singles in the area.
We see talent in you.
Yep. Look at how much they try to drag you in with everything else. Like you said, the hot singles, it's everywhere. And that's the legal side of it. Okay. So I don't doubt even a little bit that you're going to see Trump mentioned in the Epstein stuff. That's another diversion. People require purity, right? Society is dumb. Let me put something in perspective for everybody again, in case it hasn't been there for you. And if you fall into this context, don't feel bad. I'm not saying this like, oh, you're less than me or something. I mean this more like, not everyone's a bodybuilder. Is that an insult to people who aren't bodybuilders? No. Mm-hmm. You have other things going for you, okay? The average intelligence in this world is only around 100. Actually, I should say in America, it's only around like 98 or 100. Okay, in the IQ spectrum, I know IQ is not the greatest measure, but you can still get an idea based on it. Okay, the average IQ of this country is less than 100. All right, maybe you got 110, maybe you're under 100, maybe you are average, but the average intelligence of this country and the world is that or lower on average. There's only a few places where it's a little higher, and that's assuming they're not rigging the whole thing. So the average human intelligence is around 100. That's why it's 100. 100 represents the average. It's meant to be the median. Okay. They know this, and the average intelligence, in my opinion, in my mind, in relation to me, feels rather dumb. Now, I don't mean that to be mean. I know I'm using it. I know I'm using mean words. If that applies to you, I don't necessarily mean it towards you, but I mean that someone with that level of IQ can be educated. They can be taught to reason. They can be taught to think clearly. But the powers that be have done everything in their power to take average intelligence and make it a weapon against those people who have it. This is something you guys don't realize. When I say you're dumb, I don't necessarily mean that, oh, it's a moral failing on your part.
Idiocracy.
Yeah, I mean it more like that. But I mean it that it's intentionally, it's been done. You've been dumbed down is what I'm saying. I should start using that terminology instead. That's a little bit more clear. People have been dumbed down. So whenever you hear me saying, oh, everyone is dumb, that's usually what I mean. You've been dumbed down. It's not because your intelligence level is too low. It's because they've taken advantage of your lower intelligence and they have asserted and indoctrinated you into a certain mental prison. And I cannot hold that over your head too high because I'm 46 and I only broke out of it like 15 years ago or started to. And and at the point where I'm at now, I look at my 15-year self and go, 15 years ago, I look at that guy and I go, what a dummy. That's the other reason why you call someone a dummy is because what's a dummy? They parrot things for the puppeteer. So again, if I call you a dummy, I might just mean that you're parroting the narratives that they want you to parrot. So they have dumbed civilization down to the degree where the average person cannot cope with the truth. And it's going to take generations to undo what they've broken. Some of us will be ahead of the curve, of course. Some of you will be behind the curve. But the point is that this ain't going away overnight. But we do have to get through this dark period of uncertainty while they reform the new Overton window paradigm. And when they do that, it's going to hurt. There's people who are going to lose their jobs. You're going to lose your livelihoods. You're going to lose your 401ks. You're going to lose all this shit. Your family may end up, struggling for a while. You may lose a few pounds. You may have to tighten your belt more than you even thought you could. It's going to get weird and crazy from here. And I'm okay with being wrong with that part. What I'm not okay with being wrong with is how it ends up. So, all right. I will say one more thing. George Coggins says, you sound different. I'm talking really quietly tonight. This is my speaking voice. Normally when you guys are here listening, I'm in my rant voice. I'm using my speaking. That's why I suddenly sound so proper, because my speaking voice isn't my Long Island voice. So, like if I'm talking, yo, everybody, it's a nice, beautiful night. This is non-duality, baby. That's a different guy. Okay. This is like eloquent Thorne.
The Alex Jones of the Black Magic community.
Yeah. Black Magic Alex Jones with a little bit of Rick Sanchez.
Real quick, you do have another super chat from Patchwork. He spotted you $2. Ayo, what good dudes.
Oh, Patchy, I guess you missed my earlier statement. Stop spending money on me. I appreciate that though, brother. That's weird. The chat revenue went from $20 to $19.70. What the hell? That's really weird.
YouTube's collecting their dues.
They're taking, they're like, we may not be here long. Let's start taking them.
Or maybe the viewers are taking it back because you said don't do it.
They refund.
We fucked. No, seriously, that is happening. I guarantee you that they're getting their shit pushed in. Guaranteed it. Behind the scenes, they're getting their shit pushed in. They're probably one of the last citadels to fall, but they're struggling right now. They really are hurting. I can feel some of these things. Like I just feel them in the wind, if you will. It's hard to, yeah. So what do you guys think is going on? Do you guys agree or disagree in whole or in part with what I'm saying? Anybody? My two guests.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. You know, like there's like at least like half of like what we see is being said that's going on, like the sources that you get from, and you know the things that you show me, like you know I feel like there's a lot of truth to a lot of them, you know.
Mm-hmm.
um at least
Questionable, but
it's
yeah.
pointing our heads in the right direction, at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when it comes to this societal stuff, you got to realize that you're probably, let's put it this way, I'm feeling like what's even real anymore.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know?
I get that sort of feeling, that sort of sense as
Mhm.
well.
Like it's getting harder for me to be objective. And that tells me that we're being psyoped really hardcore right now. Now it might be a white hat psyop, guys. You guys have to understand the powers that be, what they have done to us for, I'm going to say, thousands of years. When you realize what they have done, you realize that your normal sense of right and wrong about how to fix that has to be abandoned. I want to put together a little scenario for you. Let's imagine that for the last 12,000 years, for whatever reason or however it happened, humanity was knocked back to the Stone Age. We began to rebuild with a little bit of help. Somebody came and showed us how to do some things that we forgot. Okay, the Anunnaki, the Elohim, you know, all whoever they are,
The sky people.
the Sky people. I want to bring, because I've been playing Avatar, the Frontiers of Pandora. I'd like to stream that one this time. It's pretty dope. I actually believe Avatar isn't that far off from what happened to our species 12,000 years ago. And I'll explain that in a little bit. Maybe not. We'll see. I haven't fully put that through my brain meat yet, so we'll see. But for the last 12,000 years, humanity has been more or less ruled either wholly or in piecemeal by whatever these beings are. These people / beings. There's probably a little bit of both. Okay. I don't know what they are specifically. Call them aliens, call them interdimensionals, call them reptilians, call them draconians. I don't give a fuck. Whatever your word for it. Call them demons. I don't give a shit. Whatever you want to call them. Whatever your worldview is, put them in that box just for now. And they have been not ruling us benevolently, but malevolently. Maybe what happened was some humans were given the secrets of rebuilding civilization and hoarded them and used them nefariously, lost some of them, gained some of them back. And in the last 150 to 200 years, the powers that be have reformed their totalitarian grip on the world. They had to deal with we went through the Enlightenment period. And one might argue that that was the last attempt to free humanity, and it worked. But it didn't finish because it's a long road to total liberation, okay? Especially ascension. It takes a while to get a civilization to go from Stone Age back into being able to do everything that we used to do. And I believe, my opinion is, people tried to do it the right way during the Enlightenment period, and then someone came along and hijacked it, corrupted it, and turned it to a system of control. These are probably the same people that all the conspiracy theorists are pointing at, probably. It is probably the Soroses, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Queen of North, all these people, the Black Pope, the Gray Pope, the White Pope is just for show. These people, you probably have Agartha, Lemuria, Atlantis. This is all probably true to some degree. I'm sure we have a lot wrong, but at least in terms of, is the myth talking about something that's truly happened or exists? Yes. Does that mean it's right in every literal sense? No. And that's another part of the psyop that's been going on for thousands of years, is that this information, the powers that be have required you to either believe it or deny it in literal sense. They don't want you to use it as an allegory or metaphor for something true. They want you to see this either as it's fanciful ideas that stupid people from the past used to control their, to think about the world. Like if you guys remember, if you've ever been through a history class or anthropology or social studies class, you know that they frame ancient mythology in the context that, oh, that was just their best way of trying to explain things that we understand now. Give me a fucking break. These people were not stupid in the past. In fact, a lot of them, I would argue, were more intelligent than the people running the world today. When you realize what they were able to accomplish with far less than what we have, give me a fucking break. Okay? These people had to do things the hard way. We have a bunch of soft, weak-minded idiots running around, even at the top. Okay? So don't tell me that they were stupid and couldn't figure it out. They just didn't have computers.
Even just seeing over the past year how much it fell apart for them.
Mm-hmm. So, exactly, you're right. And so Q even said these people are stupid, and I don't disagree.
Too much inbreeding.
Yeah, that doesn't help, does it? You have to understand why they inbred. Look up the elongated skulls that come back from Egypt and the bloodlines that includes, okay? These people were not necessarily evil. I'm not saying that they were always evil, by the way. I don't mean that. You have to understand that here's another layer of this that pisses me off. Humans, especially Americans, because they've made us this way, they've created a culture around it that they've reinforced to keep us divided. They use racism and bigotry, and then they extend it into the spiritual and extraterrestrial and interdimensional planes. So that if a being looks like a reptile, we're all going to be scared of it. If it's an alien, Christians think it's demons. So everyone's going to be superstitiously afraid of the truth. And they've created, again, in our academia, this perception that the people of antiquity were stupid and just made these things up to try to explain things they couldn't understand. That's a load of bullshit. That is a colossal load of bullshit. You couldn't get a bigger load of bullshit if you sat in a farm and waited long enough. You couldn't do it. The idea that the people of antiquity, go back to ancient fucking Egypt, not even when whatever the Atlanteans or whoever made them. I'm talking about just go back 6, 7, 8,000 years, even fuck it, go back 3,000 years. They were not stupid people. They had batteries and shit. They knew how to do things that we didn't start figuring out again until the 1800s. Guys, they knew the properties of honey. They knew how to test if you were pregnant by having women piss on certain grain. They knew things that we didn't know. They were like the Rome of the ancient world. The same way Rome to the medieval period was like this super empire that had all this technology and ability. The ancients saw ancient Egypt as the land of true advancement and power and everything. Sure, they didn't work iron, but they didn't need to, you know? Anyway, the point I'm trying to make, though, is they're not stupid. And they've made you think they are. They made you think that everybody thought the world was flat. I forget what year, but people, I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, you can probably go back to Sumeria and people knew that the planet was round. Okay? I forget when the first official proof of it was, but I don't think people thought the Earth was flat. That's a new thing. It's a new dumb idea that the CIA pumped into the people's minds.
With the ice rings and everything.
Right. And they've taught us that Columbus figured out the Earth was round in 14. No, fuck you. It was at least a couple thousand years before, at least hundreds of years before. I'd probably go way before that. Whoever built the pyramids knew the Earth was round. So yeah, you guys live in a matrix of lies. We all do. That matrix is glitching right now because the powers that be are intentionally making it glitch. They want you to see. So they're trying to acclimate society to the truth. They're trying to acclimate everybody into waking up in a controlled way. And they're doing it such that people who are a little bit more perceptive or a little bit more paranoid even, don't discount them. Or a little bit more intelligent, a little bit quicker at pattern recognition. All of these groups, the fringy people that for whatever reason, they're a little quicker to suspect. Right? Like I'm a little bit slow on that, actually. I'm not an early adopter of the crazy stuff. I tend to be like early, but not first. I tend to be like not a follower, but I definitely wait to make sure where we're going.
You kind of wait for more information to be released before you fully jump on something.
Yeah, I follow my intuition and then I wait.
You see the news, you read about it, and you wait until more is put out that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Like I will sound like I'm jumping on a perspective because it's fun. And then once I get a minute to think about it, I go, okay, that probably isn't it. You know, so I'm not early adopter, but I'm on that early part of the early adopter wave. Yes, you know, like I'm definitely surfing the early adopter wave when it comes to this stuff. By the time I start talking about it, it's getting safe to say. I'm not saying that like I'm always right, but once I start talking about it like it's true, it's getting to the point where it's probably you could do worse. You'll be 80% right if you follow what I'm saying, right?
Well, what's crazy is like I think you sent me a link. Some of these sources that are leaking information. The people are saying these people are they're just conspiracy theorists, and you're to write them off, but they leaked information that I think it said 2016 that's going on now, and it's come to pass. It was years prior to what's going on now, and what came to pass recently has come to pass.
Yep.
They were completely right.
Like, I feel like I'm happy if I'm at least 6 months to 3 years ahead of the game. I'm happy because that means I got time to prepare and do what I got to do, and I get to look like an oracle. It's not just from research. You have to understand a lot of this is I ask my guides, whatever they are. I'll reach out to source. I'll reach to my higher self. I will reach into the ether for... I was going to do it. I fucking love it. I am calling you through the ether. Something Peterson.
Well, that was what the shaman originally did in the community, right? Was to guide them.
I do feel like my role in this world is supposed to be that. And I need to be teachable to do that correctly. Like, I know I come off as this arrogant prick. Some of that's a defense mechanism. I have to tell you guys, I'm not saying I'm not an arrogant prick, but some of that is a defense mechanism. And just sort of a facade, because I don't necessarily want everybody... Think of it this way. I don't want to come out here. I'm not becoming an Arab. Come on. I like do-rags. Wait, is that why? Wait, did I just expose some? Oof, careful, Thorne. This is a do-rag. What are you doing, man? You got me all discombobulated. I don't want to placate weak-minded people by playing into their need to be cajoled and, spoken to with platitudes that are bullshit. I like Theoria Apophasis' method. I've been watching him for a long time, and I've watched his older videos. When you watch his older videos, he sounded more like I sound now. Just a little smug, but generally polite and respectful and low tone, and not like acting like he's a know-it-all. If you watch his more recent videos, you notice that he's very in his own ass, right? He's very like, oh, I'm right about this. And maybe that's the true him. But I've watched him challenge people. He will say, you don't like the way I'm talking? Then prove me wrong. And I love that approach, because that weeds out the weak-minded fools who associate with what they believe to the point where they get offended by your lack of, shall we say... Look, every spiritual guru and teacher out there is always like, hello, everyone. My name is Daniel, and I want you to feel totally at peace and trust me. I can do that. If you ever encounter me in public, especially if you're going through a crisis, I know how to talk to people, and not always, but I like to think I know how to talk to people. That's not being this guy. I do this somewhat for this reason. I'm trying to get rid of the weak fools that are easily dissuaded by just a tone. If I can get you to go, you don't respect my, he does. Trampus says he's got little man. So I think he does sometimes, but I think some of that's an act, brother, because I think I have little man syndrome sometimes, dude. I think we all do. I think anyone who says like, I don't have little man syndrome has little man syndrome. I am totally okay with admitting that there are times I have that, because who doesn't? Who doesn't sometimes overcompensate for stuff? I think everybody does. I think that's why I don't care, because it's like no one's ever going to be, no one's ever going to be caught out not being that way. But that's what I mean. You have a lot of these people that will put on this facade of like they respect you, but really they're just trying to trick you. You know, they're trying to placate you. They're trying to get soft, weak-minded people who are easily pissed off when you don't, you know, it's almost like you got to walk on eggshells with everybody. Believe me, I wouldn't mind living in a world where being polite all the time was how it was. I wouldn't need to be this way. If I lived in an optimal world, I would just be sweet to everybody most of the time because that's how I like to be. Ask my wife, do I walk around? Yeah, I pick on you like in the ribbing kind of way. But am I not like just being playful? Am I not trying to just be cute and funny and stupid?
Looking for attention.
Looking for attention. ADD. We just found out that having ADHD means you do a lot of sing-song shit. I didn't know that, and we do, especially me. So, all right. So, Seige, what would you say? I'm going to go to Seige now. And I would actually like Seige and Camilla to do more talking because I feel like I'm still running. I don't like it. Like, I want you
This
to
is
jump
your
in.
stream, brother. We're
No,
on
it's
for the
not.
ride.
You're all on the stream. This is the stream. I said I was under siege, and right now it looks like I'm just beating you guys up. No, I want you guys to chime in because, I mean, I want to know. I know where you guys stand, but I want them to hear your interjections. I want them to hear, like, what has stood out to you guys. You know, maybe let's go around. I'll ask you guys some questions. I'll start with Seige. Seige, what has stood out? This way I give Camilla some time to think. What has stood out for you as sort of a proof that we're either watching a show or it's all just one big psyop? Hopefully the good guys are doing it. What stands out to you, if anything?
Definitely what I mentioned before about, like, these these anonymous like accounts that are giving out information, leaking information. It's like a prophet prophesying, making a prophecy, and you're seeing the prophecy come to pass. It's not proof that maybe 100% everything is true, but like some stuff that they're pretty reliable. Having trouble words right now, but like,
no, you're good. You're good. If I can, I don't want to rant over you, but I want to interject. One of the psychological weapons that they have created against truth seeking is this requirement for hard proof for everything. Like when you're talking about secret cabals doing shit, you're not going to get hard proof right off the bat. You've got to do like detective work. And some of that means there's not a smoking gun, but there's a pattern of evidence.
You got to read between the lines.
You have to read between the lines, but let me be more clear. It's called a pattern of evidence or data points.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Look, I was a security guard. That doesn't mean much. In fact, that means actually less than much. But as a security guard, when I was a security guard, they would actually try to teach you to understand patterns of evidence, which means, let's say, for example, you come into your work as a security guard, and there's no proof that anybody's robbing a store, but you see one of the doors is propped open. Well, you don't have proof that someone's robbing the store, but one of the doors is propped open. That's a data point. That's a suspicious data point. And when you go to look in the store, you notice there's shit all over the ground. People been, like, it looks like somebody's been rummaging through all the stuff and just throwing it on the ground quickly. And then you hear shouting in the corner. There's still no smoking gun. For all you know, that's people working there and they're screwing something up because it's an overnight thing. So you don't have hard proof yet, but do you just ignore those data points because it's not? So I'm talking about the source source, they've gotten everybody to the point where they require hard evidence to even consider the possibility that this stuff is going on.
Right. And it's like, oh, you don't got it. Okay, cool. They're innocent, Yeah,
that's all it takes. I had one person, no offense to them, they're really cool, and I hope they know I respect them. When I dropped the Oprah thing, they parroted word for word what Oprah says. Oprah, that she's taking this medication, making her thin, she was sick, parroted the whole story. And it's like, okay, I heard that story. You believe that? Knowing you probably don't know the rest, do you? You must not know that she's implicated with the Epsteins. You don't know that she's implicated with all of this New World Order shit.
They refuse to question anything.
Yeah, I'm not saying them, but the average person.
Yes. No, the average person, yeah.
So I mean, I don't want to put like what they're thinking in their head, but it's possible. No. So I'm seeing, like, that's the response. When you tell people there is, for example, 9/11 was an inside job, instead of people going, well, maybe, I don't know, they go, where's the proof? And then you say, well, dude, it's like a bank robbery. it's sometimes hard to get proof. You still know the bank was robbed, motherfucker. Why are you, so cognitive dissonance is what results. When people are brainwashed, they have cognitive dissonance. And can you tell when someone has cognitive dissonance? Let me give you an example. Camilla,
Mm-hmm.
the sky is green. Okay. It didn't bother you, right?
Nah.
Okay. When someone has cognitive dissonance, however, if I said to Camilla, the sky is blue, and now reverse that. Say, Camilla, tell me the sky is blue.
The sky is blue, DH.
No, it's not, you motherfucker. It's not blue. Because I was told that it's green because that's the color of what blue is actually in the green spectrum. So you're fucking stupid and I hate you. I don't want to talk to you anymore. I just gave you an example of cognitive dissonance. When someone has been indoctrinated into a belief system that is irrational, they are encoded. Part of that indoctrination is the creation of an Agent Smith, if you will, a kind of mental egregore that attacks people when they threaten that paradigm of belief. So cognitive dissonance is painful. When you are shown that something is not what you believe it is, a normal response is to argue the details and not attack the person. Okay? When you have cognitive dissonance, you're more inclined, and I'm not saying it's the only reason you'd attack the other person. Sometimes you're just dumb and you have a bad attitude. But on average, if your response is you feel discomfort and a need to attack the person telling you, you have been programmed through indoctrination to not just believe something, but to defend that belief irrationally. And what does that mean? It means attacking the messenger, not the message. So if I say to someone who's not crazy, the sky is green, and they know it's not, they haven't been indoctrinated into the sky is blue just because we tell you so, their response is going to be, yeah, right, whatever. Okay? They know better. But if you tell someone who's been indoctrinated into a loyalistic tribal narrative, they feel cognitive dissonance and they want to attack you.
It's like you must suffer for thinking differently.
I like to call it a social response instead of a rational response. A social response is a way, so like if we're having a debate, a social response is not about proving the point, it's about doing something to the opponent in the debate that makes them incapable of winning the debate by making them angry, making them look bad, and it's part of sophistry, okay? Sophistry is almost always a social, like you do ad hominem attacks, you slander them, you do things to try to misconstrue what they say, you use semantics, etc. Correct, Gar. Their identity gets caught up in their belief. That's a big part of indoctrination. When you're indoctrinated into a false ideology, they very often make it a part of your identity. Well said. Well put, Gar. So, all right, Seige. So that's it. You feel like you've seen enough data points, right? That's like there's enough.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I used to have the normie mindset. I used to even have family members who would go near these sort of subjects with certain mindsets, and I would write it off. But now, now that I revisit these things, not that I really looked at them before, but now that I'm actually looking into these things, it's hard to deny a lot of what's speculated.
Yeah. And again, we're not going to get it all right. This is how they get you, because it's called a purity spiral. If I'm doing my job, you need to research it. I don't want to sound like Alex Jones, okay? Because I think Alex Jones is probably a honeypot, and I think he's being redeemed, but I think he was blackmailed. I don't know how I believe that. Allegedly, I think he was probably blackmailed into being basically a honeypot. I believe David Icke still is. Okay. Now I could be wrong, but I believe David Icke still is. I think David Icke is going to probably go down. He's either still controlled Or maybe he's just wrong, but he's saying things that don't add up now. So, for example, he'll say Trump is a Zionist. I don't think there's a difference between saying I don't want to destroy Israel because it's there and I don't want to, there's innocent people involved on both sides. I can't just make Israel go away. I don't have that power. My job is to, so I don't think that's Zion. I know people will say Zionism is Israel must exist. I don't equate that way. Like, I'm not saying Israel has to go away. Okay. Am I a Zionist? No, I'm trust me, I'm not a Zionist. Okay. So being like pro-peace and some sort of civil solution where people stop dying and we find a way to fix it where Israel and Palestine can somehow coexist or reform or something, that's the team I'm on, right? Team innocent children, that's what I'm on. I'm not on team ideology and flag in this case. I don't give a shit about that. There are people in this world that will call Trump a Zionist unless he's sitting there beating the "it's the Jews" drum all day long. You're not going to do that. No one should do that. I think that's wrong. It pisses me off when people do that in my, that's like saying it's the Italians, it's the white people, it's
Generalization.
It's a generalization, and it's wrong. Just like the situation in Brooklyn with that, temple, and I'm coming to you in a second, honey, with that temple. People are so quick to say that they're raping kids in those tunnels. And I'm like, you don't know that. I'm not saying it looks good. I think it's a bad look too. I saw the soiled bed that came out of those tunnels. I saw some of the weird shit. That doesn't mean that they're doing bad things down there. You have to understand, those are Hasidic people. They're not Zionists. They're not those people.
For one thing, it's like a dirty, disgusting tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
That could be fucking mud on it. For one thing, it could be a shit pipe leaked on it. Who knows?
Could be a mud pie.
It could be literally a mud pie.
And with all the high chairs and shit, with everything going on, what's to say it isn't their own form of bunker? You need high chairs for babies and children, and maybe they were stockpiling shit in case shit hit the fan and they were blamed for something that they didn't do and they needed somewhere to hide.
So we don't know what it is. I'm open to either possibility, but instead of just jumping to the conclusion they're fucking kids in the basement, who the hell is promoting those ideas? Why is that what it has to be? Maybe that's what it will be. I'm not going to eat crow on this because I'm open to whatever, but I am noticing this attempt to just create this narrative that they're eating babies down there or something. And it's like, dude, I get why you would think that. Like, there's a lot of shit going on. I totally get why you would suspect, but to not entertain the possibility that they started building those bunkers roughly 5 or 6 months ago. Does anybody have Google available and can tell me when Gaza and all of this shit in Israel popped off last?
For one thing, also, it was reported by a man who heard voices under his floorboards. Okay? If they are fucking children under the floorboards of people's houses, you're gonna fucking hear it, okay? Yep. If you can hear them talking on the way to the temple, you're gonna hear the kids, okay? Just an idea.
So it's very possible that some months ago, some people, for what maybe they got word ahead of time that maybe there is something fishy going on, obviously, but maybe they got word, or maybe they were seeing things coming, or maybe they were upset because of how COVID went last time. For whatever reason, they decided they wanted to build a bunker. Oh yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute, area trans, but yeah. People jump to the evil conclusion. That's like their first gut instinct because it's attention seeking too. When you go, yeah, they're all pedos, you get to jump in on the, if you guys don't know how angry mobs work, you probably haven't been on the left-hand path very long. Just saying. If you're on the left-hand path long enough, you know exactly what an angry mob is because you've seen them aimed at you, not directly, but indirectly. And
well, if you notice something, the word secret tunnel, secret, as soon as it's secret, it's occulted and it's automatically evil.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So yeah, exactly. And but that's also, it's part of, it's like a clique, or not a clique. It's a meme. It's a trope. It's a psychological paradigm people are in, because people have lost trust for everybody. People have seen nothing but dirt for a long time, and so they think the worst. I don't blame them. That part I don't blame them for. What I do blame them for is not having the mental responsibility to just like bite their tongue and say, we don't know what's going on down there. It's like every time somebody steps up and says, such and so raped me in Hollywood, right? Even if my heart says it's probably true, my mouth says we don't know, because we don't know.
Mhm.
Now that's like what I said before. Is that the same thing as purity spiral? No, because internally I'm still open to both possibilities. I just say I don't know. Maybe they did. Maybe they don't. Maybe they did rape that person. Maybe they didn't rape that person. I just want to, since it's in the public eye, let's wait till it develops, because we don't have proof yet. That's all. And yes, they may hide it. I'm not necessarily going to believe the official story, but until I really look into it, I don't know. See, that's what I mean. Most people just read headlines. They don't, and the powers that be know this. They don't do deep research. They don't have people that do deep research that they get their opinions from. They read headlines and they're done. And they're happy because they feel like they're formed. But they have an IQ of around 100 and they're dummies. And by dummies, I mean they're puppets. They parrot what they're told to say. They just don't know that they're being told to say it. And that's their entire worldview. In fact, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that unfortunately, and I mean this with respect, a lot of the people chatting here, and again, I'm not afraid to say myself included, we all parrot the propaganda of other people because we're not there. We don't know what the truth is. So all we can do is go on what we think is true, right? But some people don't sanity check what they say. All right, so Camilla, for you, we're probably going to have to walk this back a long ways. But at what point, let's deal with a more recent thing. At what point did you get clued in? Like, what was it that did it for you? The idea that it's not the actual end of the world. The New World Order is going down. There is some kind of a white hat plan. When did it? Can you think of something, that some bit of information or some event?
There are so many fucking things, even just in the past year alone, but I'll go with one of the more recent ones that I said. There was a leak of sorts that supposedly T-Mobile would be implementing, going through your texts, and if it doesn't fit their criteria, they changed they were planning on. I don't know if it actually happened. I don't know if it was a leak. I don't know even if it was fucking true, but it was put out there that they were changing their terms of service, that if your texts inspired hate or anything against the norm, they will be fining you
Thousands of dollars.
thousands and thousands of dollars per infraction. Okay.
Yeah, you can look that one up. Well, that's when you realized that there was a plan at play, or is that just?
This was, I think it's part of a plan. I think it's part of a plan to inspire people to see that the fucking First Amendment is a thing and it should not be infringed. And that they are trying to overstep these lines to show you how bad it could be. To show you what they were trying for.
Yeah, what's interesting about
and
that
like I mentioned it to some people that are on T-Mobile, and I said, listen, after this date, you're gonna want to watch what you say, just in case this is true.
Yeah, I think the way they're gonna work it is like.
And this is like, I mentioned it to some normies, okay, people that don't know too much about much. And they're like, how can they do this? This goes against the Constitution. And what about the right to free speech? And blah, it's in their terms of service. If it's true, it's in their terms of service. So you have to play ball.
Yeah. It could be that you have to understand, like, there is a line where I would not like, but wouldn't be so mad. If you said, we are only going to use this against people who, for example, now that's how they get it in, by the way. That's like, so I'm not saying that it's good. I'm saying
it's just to prevent racism and the physical threats and all this other crap and, terrorist activity. Yeah, it starts as that, but then it turns into, oh, you're being a Nazi, so I'm going to report you and you're going to get fined by T-Mobile thousands of dollars for what you say. like I
The road
said,
to hell is
I
paved with
believe,
good intentions.
yes. Like I said, I believe it's just the white hats undercover cleaning shit up.
Well, the way I would say it would be if they're only using it to find people who were caught, like, staging a riot, like, let's round up all the black people and all this stuff, or let's round up the Palestinians, let's round up the Israeli, whatever. If they were using T-Mobile to send out the messages to do that, I'm not saying I'm great with it, because that's how they get their foot in the door.
Mm-hmm.
But I would at least say, well, that's not absolute, tyranny. That's not reasonable, but I get it. Like that, I could see why they would squeak that in. But what's really happening is, or at least what was happening, I don't think it's happening anymore, is that basically the idea is, the U.S. government is limited by the Constitution. So long as the Constitution's in play, even if we're dealing with a broken corporate government and not a legitimate republic, they are still limited by that Constitution, at least enough that, if they push against it too hard, they know that they'll get BTFO'd by the people or something. So that they did start trampling the Constitution after 1999, because if you watch that video that I put on the Discord, you know that in 1999, basically the Constitution ended, as being supreme. But the bottom line, though, they still know that that document protects us, at least in the sense that people will say, what are you doing? Just disregarding it. Like, you can't do that. So what they do is, since the Constitution doesn't hold because of the way things have been structured the same way as it used to, I think, and this is just my opinion, again, based on that statement, that they use corporate powers to do what government can't do, because there is that argument, if you don't like the way a corporation's running things, just start your own, just go to a different one.
It's technically a private business.
And as a libertarian, I do respect that point. But there is also a point where you have to accept that it's not just corporations doing this, because let me clue you guys in. I remember years ago having arguments with people, and they would say that line, you're a libertarian, why are you telling corporations what to do? And I didn't have the mental fortitude or the mental capacity at the time, because it's like, I just assume everybody knows this. But in my mind, it's like, yes, but governments, both foreign and domestic, are influencing those corporations to act against the interests of our people. They're not just corporations doing this to operate as a corporation and make money. They're doing this on the behest of a foreign or domestic enemy of this country and its freedoms. So, for example, if I see Google, or no, let's use Hollywood. If I see Disney promoting things that not only are terrible for our civilization and supporting things that censor us and do all of these things, especially when it goes against their own bottom line, which it has been doing. So the shareholders are talking about suing. There's going to be a hostile takeover soon. You can't tell me that corporation was just acting on its own interests. It's got WEF, through BlackRock and Vanguard, DIE and all this other shit. They've got foreign interests shoving them to do these things. And take the case of Twitter, take the case of Facebook, where you have literally the FBI and other parts of the government and other governments around the world being very, shall we say, coy, but heavy-handed in their treatment of these corporations, giving them little hints now and then. Take these people off because we want you to. Oh, and by the way, next month will be the new meeting between the House and Senate, and we're going to decide what new laws will affect you guys. So just letting you know. They don't have to give you a threat. They just have to juxtapose those two things together. That'd be like me. Like, I guess you guys don't know how to do veiled threats in your life because you're probably normal, not like me. But a veiled threat would be like, hey, Seige, in a few minutes, I'm going to come in there and I'm going to move that wicker, the wicker circle. In fact, if you wouldn't mind, would you move it? Okay, thanks. Oh, and by the way, I control the lights in there. So just keep that in mind. Right. So it's a veiled threat. It's like, do what I want. Oh, and by the way, just to let you know, we're having an important decision about how big tech's going to operate soon. Things like that. And this kind of stuff, if you look at the Twitter files, this kind of shit was going on. So in that situation. All of you people who had said to me in the past, well, Thorne, you're a libertarian. You should be okay with the idea that on paper, yes, in a normal situation, 100%. But when you're talking about foreign and domestic traitors or enemies of our people and our state influencing these corporations to do these things, guess what? It stops being First Amendment at that point, stops being their right, because they are in league with enemies, okay? People who are trying to subvert the Constitution, the rule of law, the will of the people. That is where the line is drawn, technically. It's built right in. When that starts to happen, you can't hide behind, I'm a corporation. And as Maiden said, they're not people. So they're a corporate fiction. By the way, so are you. At least you were. Understand that. That's why people like me have been saying, yes, I understand that these corporations have, certain rights, I guess, But at the same time, that's like saying I can't shoot a home invader because they have certain rights, right? I can't stop somebody who's literally beating my dog to death and our friends are raping my family, pardon me for the R word, for those of you who get triggered over it, which I feel weird even saying that, but I guess some people do. When you're looking at that kind of a situation, I'm sorry, but those persons' rights are null and void. They have lost those rights because they're doing something that's violating other people's rights.
They forfeit them.
Right, they forfeit that protection. That's the whole point of imprisonment. That's the whole point of our law, is you have rights that become forfeit when you violate the rights of others. Done. It's a very simple equation, and most people don't have the mental capacity to understand that for some reason, because they've been dumbed down. Especially people older than boomers, if you still got living grandparents that are in their 80s or something, ask them what I just said. Half of them will totally understand what I meant. Because they were taught as kids how important our rights were. They don't teach you guys the same way. If you're under 20 especially, they don't teach you guys the same way that they used to about how important your rights are.
They never touch on the Constitution in the classroom.
Yeah, like why are these fundamental things saved for higher high school levels than, why do you not start learning about how important like civics are? It's only an elective and only in late high school that they throw it at you? They don't instill in you as a I
don't even think we touched on the Constitution other than the idea of it. We never went over what all the different amendments and everything were.
That's insane to me. That's insane.
We barely even talked about the Bill of Rights, for Christ's sake.
That's insane. That's insane to me. Don't get me wrong. I don't want my kid to be indoctrinated to worship the country either, but I want them to know what the founding principles of it are. At least the ideals are supposed to be. So at least they can point to those and say, that's what we're aiming at. And if we miss, we got to fix it. I don't have a problem with that. That's like saying so we should just not tell people what the founding principles of this country are supposed to be. Of course you're supposed to. And if people don't like it, that's fine. They can go to a country where they don't have rights. I don't care. But most people have been taught to hate their country of origin. And not just hate it because, no, they're taught to hate it in the sense that there's nothing redeemable about it, or that it was based on slavery or something. So you couldn't. How many of you guys who are under a certain age get this weak but present feeling of like, I'm not supposed to like this country because of slavery or whatever, whatever injustice had a lot to do with the formation of it? I think a lot of you would say, me. Is it cool to want America to be better? No, it's not. How many of you guys think it's cool to be like, yay, American Constitution and Bill of Rights?
Well, not for nothing, but there's so many other countries that could think the same about themselves and they don't.
Yeah.
I mean, Italy, the UK with Ireland, every country should feel that way then.
Mm-hmm.
Every.
This is the thing, and in 2020, when I dipped my big toe into this, people got mad immediately. They lost their minds because they were all indoctrinated and have cognitive dissonance. I even said that to people when I first came out and said I'm voting for Trump. People started saying, "You're evil. You're this. Don't you know Christians like him?" And I would just, instead of arguing with them, I'd just be like, "You have cognitive dissonance. Bye." You're being insulting just because I think differently than you. You have you're clearly indoctrinated with cognitive dissonance, and you're an Agent Smith. Go away. You're unreachable. I'm not having this you're not, I literally cannot talk to you. There's no hope. You're like a fundamentalist Christian who will not listen to reason.
You got a super chat from Patchwork.
Okay.
$2. He says, I used to feel that way when I woke up. Then I woke up.
Oh, Patchy's been on the ball for a while, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Christian. Now, see, let me touch on Christian, because Christian's of a younger generation. Christian, I think Christian's in his early 20s, and I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, he's not just living in Canada. I think he's born and raised there. So he says, no, never. Only learned how fucked up we've been, but who hasn't? Now, on the one hand, I don't have a problem with that. I think history needs to include the nitty-gritty dark shit. I think we need to know what injustices have been done to people in the past. But, Christian, can you tell me, was history class weighted towards how much this country did wrong and how bad white people were, versus this is the good stuff this country does, these are the good things this group does, here's the redemption of those people? Isn't it mostly negative? Correct me if I'm wrong, because when I look back at history class, the positives were this, the negatives were, dwarfed it. Now, you could argue, yes, that's because everything's bad. I don't think that in the slightest. Because you're only talking about government at that point. Here's the thing that propaganda has done. This is undeniable. They have shifted the blame from our corrupt leaders to the population. And they've weaponized the population against each other, so we don't say the leaders are bad. They got us going, you're on the left, you're unredeemable. You're on the right, you're unredeemable. It's your fault. It's your fault. It's your fault. It's your fault. And nobody's looking up and saying it's their fault. Or when they do, they only point to the other side's leaders, not their own. True or false? How many of you guys look at your own leaders with critical eyes from time to time? I do. So here's the point I'm trying to make, is that they don't have to say to you that your country is evil. They just have to just give you nothing to be proud of. And then in the subculture of choice, be it rock and roll, rap music, goth stuff, you know what they'll do to you then? They make it uncool to like your country. They make it uncool to like what it stands for. They make it uncool to want your country to prosper. What they want you to do is be a revolutionary that attacks everything except what they want you to do. Can you name me one subculture where it's cool to like your country? I'll wait. And I mean a literal sub. I don't mean like, yes, obviously if you're into, I'm talking about like a mainstream culture, subculture, like rock and roll. Where is it cool to like your country until maybe recently? People make fun of, like, I make fun of, like, you have Kid Rock, like, making patriotic songs. And of course it's Kid Rock. Like, I don't know who likes Kid Rock, but some people do. So of course it's like it's like the Jesus music, right? The Jesus rock that nobody likes, Nickelback or something,
I don't think Nickelback was Jesus. I think it was Creed. That was Creed.
Creed. Whatever it is. I'm just saying, we all know it's not cool. Right? So what subculture is it cool? And if you do like America, you can only like it as Murica. You're not allowed to look. So I was born and raised by a Bronze Star, winning grandfather. My other grandfather had quite a storied past, but they were patriotic. What does patriotism even mean? Patriotism doesn't mean that you adore everything your country does. It means you feel a sense of responsibility to the nation in which you are loyal to. And you could say that about the world, even if you prefer. If you don't want to go by borders and countries, I'm fine with that. So you're patriotic about your planet. Okay. The point is that means you take that, all it means to be patriotic, the essence of patriotism is responsibility. That's all it is. It doesn't mean that you make excuses for the wrong things your country does. It means that you love your fellow man or your fellow planet or your fellow country or whatever your little tribal group is, and you take responsibility for it. You get involved and you do what's required on some capacity to be a sheepdog, to help. And a lot of people are going to hear me saying that and be like, Thorne, that doesn't sound like Luciferianism. You know why? Because they've lied to you about what that means. They've taught you that Luciferianism means that you've got to be adversarial and hate everybody and shit. That's never what it meant, guys. I don't know who told you that. Probably a CIA operative or someone parroting them. Luciferian leads you to enlightenment, period. Liberation, fire of the gods. It doesn't mean you're an anarchist who hates every government and everything and just wants to break everything down. You just want Mad Max? Is that a Luciferian? What, are you retarded? No, Luciferianism means that, yes, you're an individualist. That's true. But an individualist can be a patriot too. You can be a lone sheepdog and be your own person. That's how it used to be. Look at the Wild West. You had like a one guy sheriff who got the job, you know. You see that you don't have to be a sheep to be a patriot. I like that, Jasonius. Luciferian means know thyself. And if that means really what that's supposed to mean, if you look at the origin of that, you're not talking about it's not meant to be like, oh, I know I'm this person, I can bench 200 pounds, or ultimately, the ultimate knowledge of self is knowing exactly the truth of your nature, which is consciousness. You know that that's what you are. You're not this person. You're consciousness that has chosen to witness this person within itself. That's what you are. To know thyself is to know the non-dual essence or whatever, consciousness, whatever your divine language is, to know that you're the Ein Sof, you're the source, you're the Brahman, whatever. You know, that's, you're the causal body, not the other koshas, whatever your worldview is. Know thyself means to know, who am I when all of these facades go away? Or what am I? Meditation will teach that to you. Certain substances will help you figure that out. Right? All right, so let's go to I'm doing it again. Shut me up, guys. You guys are just sitting there. I just feel like I'm like talking at
You have very valid and very wonderful points, and I like to hear them.
I know, but I want you guys to take some spotlight. I'm not trying to take it from. Come on, guys, get aggressive. Just be like, let's talk about, like, you know, aliens or something. Like, give me something else.
Well, I can confirm, you know, especially through you know, trying certain pathways, trying certain substances and whatnot. Those definitely have assisted me in my ascent, in my growth as a person, and my understanding of reality. Honestly, the whole alien shit is like a wet dream for me, because like that's kind, you know, if there was any apocalypse scenario out of, you know, whether it's zombies, but, you know, some kind of disease, I want it to be aliens. If the world's gonna end, I'd rather it be alien invasion.
Okay. I mean, I don't think it's going to be an invasion, by the way.
No, but I'm you know, but as far as what you're talking about with the aliens, you know, it's crazy to think about. You know, it's surreal to think about, and if like that truth ever comes out, it's reality shifting.
Yeah. Well, it's already happened, dude. We're in the middle of soft disclosure right now.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're seeing crazy things being disclosed right now.
Even if some of it's fake, it's still normalizing it. You have to understand how that works. Soft disclosure requires priming too. So that means some of it's got to be, like, for example, we don't know what the fuck happened in Miami, right? But it seems like everybody feels like it's aliens, that's enough. That means that's like sticking your finger in the ass of the universe and figuring out what the temperature is. It's like you're getting a temperature reading. Is humanity ready for aliens? Do they think everything's aliens yet? Okay, they're getting there. Like most people are okay with it being aliens. Okay.
You know what I love, and you said it to me one time, and it was like the very next day I was watching YouTube, and somebody of faith said the same thing, was if it is aliens, the Bible makes more sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, you have like Christians getting on board with this shit too, and he said in particular, this YouTuber, he's like, I was reading to my son, and I'm going through the verses and all this other crap, and it just made sense that it was aliens.
Mhm. Especially when you realize that every culture around the world is pointing at aliens without saying aliens because they didn't have a word alien, you know.
Like when you
And
see the Hindu the Hindu gods and goddesses, it's like, no, that's definitely aliens.
and let's be clear, when we use the word aliens, that's just a blanket term for unknown beings, right?
That are
I
not of
don't
this world.
right
Yeah.
because let's be clear, there's extraterrestrials, there's interdimensional beings, there's non-human intelligences that may be disembodied, spiritual beings, energy beings. There's all these different possibilities, right? And I consider alien to be a catch-all for all of them, potentially. Although I do like to use the word spirit or something for non-corporeal beings. But the point is,
Someone used the term super terrestrial as well, or ultra terrestrial,
ultra-terrestrial
for
or
I
not.
guess probably extra dimensional being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so to be clear, when I'm saying aliens, I don't necessarily mean that they're going. Hold on, I got something for that. I don't necessarily mean that it's. I don't know if I got it the right way. Okay, I don't necessarily mean that. It might just be interdimensional beings. It might be spiritual beings or something, right?
Real quick, Christian brought up Lilo and Stitch with the Disney propaganda disclosure. No, that's so funny because I was thinking the same thing with the United Galactic Federation. That's so fucking funny.
Which that Israeli former space minister says is real, and
Yeah.
he's not the only one.
Yeah.
So, I think that some of this is being put in language we can understand. To be clear.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And Trampus is right. Entheogens are absolutely our friends. That doesn't mean that they should be just willy-nillied, but they are absolutely our friends. I think the fact they've been made illegal is criminal in itself. I understand if you want to have certain stopgaps in place to make sure people don't just willy-nilly kill themselves with it, but I don't know how easy that is to do, to be brutally honest. You might make yourself a little upset or crazy if you overdo it, but anyway, it's not for everybody, but the fact that they make it so no one can have it, that's bullshit. So anyway, and I will say, Jasonius, I don't agree with that. Jasonius says, in order to achieve that, one needs to die and be reborn many times. It isn't an easy path to travel on. I am going through spiritual death at the moment. I don't think you can say that as a blanket statement, Jasonius. I think that everybody's different. I think every incarnation is different. And you have to understand that in the pretty much every tradition that includes the concept of reincarnation, none of us are a firstborn soul. Okay? None of us. They don't exist. Everybody has had already countless lives already. And I think that you may awaken and go back to sleep many times. You may achieve complete realization and go back to sleep many times. The idea that you, because you have to understand, you are not this person, your consciousness itself, having the experience of this person. So what you're really talking about is, has this mind realized yet that it is not who you are? When the mind realizes that it serves God, if you will, do you see how the monotheist twisted the idea? Because I've been doing a lot of that meditation lately. I've been sitting, either like before bed, or I'll be laying in bed or something. I'll start working through and I'll be thinking, and then I'll realize you're not your thoughts, I'll be like, fuck, okay. That's not who I am. I know that. Then I realize I am that which is witnessing those thoughts. Oh, that's fine, Jasonius, yeah. And to be fair, I understand that you're limited in how many characters you can use, so maybe you would have said that. I get it, don't worry. I just have to correct it just because, when I say correct it, I have to speak on it because you tagged me on it. So I have to comment on it. I should anyway, and it is different. So I'm fine that you understand that. I just want to make it clear to my audience that it is a well understood fact that enlightenment can be literally less than 3 seconds or 300,000 lifetimes. Okay, and it can happen more than once. The idea that you become enlightened and that's it, I don't believe. I don't think that's true. This idea that you stop reincarnating, I think it's possible, potentially, but I think all that means is that you take a break, because you're ultimately consciousness. Consciousness doesn't stop existing or stop, that would be like if that's what it meant, then the entire multiverse would wink out forever and never come back in any form, in a new form or whatever. I don't think that's what happens. Okay. I think that the potential, which is probably the better word for energy, the potential for every possible multiverse is there, and it manifests not like sequentially or temporally, it manifests on demand. Think of it like a video game where you have like a procedurally generated universe like No Man's Sky. Okay. Do you think every single world is rendered? No, that's the whole point. It's not. It's procedurally generated. It exists as a potential, and it doesn't actually appear in the game until you go there. In much the same way, consciousness has the potential to be anything. And when a specific mind accesses that potential, it accesses a very specific portion of that potential and manifests that as its reality. And because the nature of the divine is adimensional, it's basically a non-dual singularity, if you will, in a linguistic sense. That's the only words that really make, in my mind, enough paradoxical sense. So it's a null space, non-dual singularity. And within that non-dual null space singularity is the potential for all possible manifestation. And minds are just not divisions of, but we'll say portions of the whole, which are isolated through ignorance, and they access a certain part of that potential and manifest that as its reality. And right now, I am in a home where I have the soul of my wife, the soul of Seige, and myself, and we're all sort of focused on a similar bit of potential, and we're manifesting our own personal version of it, because Seige and Camilla, neither one of them see exactly what I see. Even if we put our heads really close, you don't experience the same reality. You just can't. We all live in our own bubble of reality. And so we're talking about a little bit like a mixture of non-duality and Kant, right? Because Kant was talking about the noumenal reality, which we don't perceive directly. So in a very similar sense, we're all sort of manifesting our own bubble of reality that is shared to a degree. And ultimately, it's all one thing doing it, right? This is why it's so hard. It breaks the mind, because the mind is a dualistic contraption. It can't work on non-dual terms. In order to have non-duality, you have to shut the mind up a little bit, at least for a minute, just to see, oh, I still exist when my mind shuts off.
And I think this is where like the Matrix comes in. Not necessarily that they're creating the Matrix, but the Matrix is we're creating the Matrix, but if they can influence our minds, they can shape the narrative.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. This is why wise people have been saying for a while that one of the things that the bastards of the New World Order are doing is they are trying to create a consensus reality in which they become gods and not you. That they ascend into divinity, or the equivalent of, and they're, they wouldn't necessarily call it that. They might call it transhuman, all that kind of shit. But the point is that they're trying to ascend on the backs of lesser beings. They see us as lesser beings on average. You have to understand that the bastards who are running this shit, or who at least were, they don't think of most people as human. Or rather, they don't think of themselves as human. They're human plus. I think that they're the reason why we have the myths of vampirism, to be clear. I think that literally every checkbox that vampires tick, some of these people tick. They live extended lifespans. They do drink the blood of innocents. Have you noticed Nosferatu was mostly attracted to innocents? They were talking about these adrenochrome suckers, fuckers. That's who they were talking about. Hello? Really do a deep dive into that whole thing. Really, really do a deep dive into it. And you go, every single box that is checked by a vampire is checked by these adrenochrome fuckers. Every single one. Every single one. I challenge you. That's why I said in a Facebook post, I'm starting to think vampires are real in a sense that even I didn't realize. And I wrote books on the subject. This is one reason why I'm looking at my old work and I just want to tear it all up and throw it out, because I realize, as right as I was under the information that I had at the time, new information means I was wrong. How many people will sit there and say my last book was wrong? Hi, go ask. I love EA as a brother, but do you think he's going to say, oh, that book was completely wrong? No. Luckily, I put all those books up partially as entertainment value, partially to get you thinking, and partially to get you practicing. So I leave them up. They're not bad books, but I don't necessarily believe everything that I wrote in those books anymore. Some of it I do. A lot of it I do. I'm just saying that enough of it I've reformed my entire perspective of. Like, I wouldn't do it that way now. And that's a fact. How many people would say that? People say, oh, you're self-contradicting. No, I'm just evolving. If you're not evolving, shut up and leave me alone. I don't, you're just you're a fossil.
Real
Yeah,
quick.
possibly. Christian says adrenochrome sounds like something they would have done before they knew about stem cells. I don't know if that's why, but it's definitely, it's more than that, because it's a drug, right? It's more than just longevity.
You got another super chat.
Okay. Would you mind reading it to me in my super chat reader?
Sure. You got a $5 from Patchwork. This is why it's important to guard the gates of the mind.
Yes, it's true. Absolutely. Jasonius makes a good point. He says energy vampires are linked to parasites. We are parasitism to a certain degree. So as an energy vampire, and have been most of, not all my life, as far as I know, I am also of a bloodline, just so you know, that does have very, very distant relation to some of these elongated head type of, not necessarily them, but the bloodlines that rule the world. I am not a direct descendant. They probably wouldn't come and get me or anything like that. It's like twice removed type of shit.
You're not going to be in the will.
Yeah, I'm not going to be, I'm not, like, I guess, I don't know, pretty much everybody in the royal family would have to die for anyone. Like, you ever see the movie King Ralph? A lot of people would have to die before anyone knocked on my door and said, you know, I don't mean like 20 or 30. I mean thousands of people would probably have to die.
You saw that research that girl did, that all but one president was attached to, who was it? One of the kings.
Mm-hmm.
What is it, King? I'm failing on the name.
Yeah, I forget now too.
Is it
All of a
King
sudden.
James?
No.
No. King.
Don't worry about it, honey. Just keep going with your point.
Well, that was my point.
Yeah, when she did the thing where all but two modern presidents.
All but one.
At the time it was
At
one,
the
but
time
now
it
it's
was
two.
one.
Yeah, because Trump, by the way, isn't in that bloodline list. Did you know that? Interesting, huh?
Was it? I think it was King John. Yeah, King John of England.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So anyone can be an energy parasite, by the way. That's not a racial or a spiritual DNA thing. Anyone can do it. Okay. But it helps if you're being parasitized from, because that's when you get the hunger. If you don't have that, you don't really learn to do it. You don't need to. If you're being parasitized by someone or something, then you tend to develop the ability. Okay. Because that's
Right.
how you cope. That's how you compensate. It's
I
not
read
a
in
rule.
I read in a book, and can also state from experience, a great way of starting off with vampirism, at least starting off with vampirism, is getting yourself in that state of hunger.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. I think it's true. You know, like that's one way. I don't like that way because you're damaging your energy body when you do that. But if you notice from the Vampire Handbook, there's two versions of the ritual to Lilith to turn you into a vampire. One, you are taught to be a vampire. The other, they feed on you and teach you to be a vampire. Guess what? Version 1 is the right one. Learning. Version 2, I'm not saying you're bad for doing it that way. Just understand you're being accelerated in your ability, because I don't believe in just giving you, I want you to know both sides of a thing. I don't want to just be like, only do this or do that. I want to present both to you and be like, if you're too stupid to figure out what I'm telling you, then you deserve what's going to happen over here. I'm not going to lie to you and say, oh, it's perfectly fine. You still have control over it. You can still bow out. You can still say, no, I'm not letting you do this to me anymore. But you notice you're entrusting your energy to those beings, and they're going to guide you to be more vampiric. And you're going to feed them. You're creating a symbiotic relationship with them. You are creating, but it's up to you to be a benevolent symbiotic vampire to other people or not. If you allow them to feed from you to the point where you become a toxic parasite that just hurts people, then look, I'm not going to tell you not to. I'll just see you in the astral. That's all, so to speak. Because that's actually weakness. You just don't know it. If you pay attention to people who are negative energy vampires, the real ones, the natural ones, shall we say, who don't know it, they're always toxic, they're always horrible people, and they're always self-destructive in the end. They die alone, they die, miserable, they die hungry, so to speak. They end up destroying themselves. But what do you suppose happens to these other people? They're different because there's I think a bit of biology involved somewhere. Maybe there is a bloodline that can get something extra from adrenochrome that the average person can't. Have you thought of that? Do you think that maybe there are people that for whatever reason, adrenochrome isn't just a drug or whatever that gives them some kind of boost or something, or maybe abilities or something, like CM is saying? What if there are people that literally is an elixir of life? What do you think? Maybe, I'm not saying it is. What do you think maybe ambrosia is? What do you think some of these things might be? It exists going back to antiquity. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying, I'm asking questions. Okay. Now I can say, as a side vampire, I transmuted that over time to predominantly symbiotic. I don't like to feed off of negative anymore. I really don't. I hate it now. But every once in a while, it's like a drug. Like my wife and I will get into a fight, or someone pisses me off just the right way. You will see me. It's like you can see, like if you ever watch the movie The Strain, like it's like you can see the come out and just I just start attacking your soul, and I start like using my empathic abilities to your detriment. I start tearing you apart from the inside. And then as you're crying, I just go, yeah, I got it. And then guilt hits because I'm like, fuck, I don't want to do that to people. I hate this.
Not for nothing, but when you're on the receiving end of that, you feel like you have that black tendril in you from that person.
Right. And it's not just me. There's other people in our lives that have
that
ability,
yeah.
By the way.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Like I can feel it when someone's
they
trying it on me.
They don't even know they're doing it, but they do it.
Like being what I am, when you do it to me, I go, you bastard, leave me alone. Like, pathetic. Because I know when an unawakened vampire is around, because they're usually like a loose cannon with their toxicity. Everybody hates them. It's like unavoidable. It's like everyone goes, I don't know what it is when I'm around them. I feel so tired, drained, and angry. And there you go. You just encountered a psychic vampire.
It's like what we do in the shadows, where he thrives off negativity.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, Macadamia 99. I know it means Mike Mana 99. Macadamia 99 just says, I started attacking your soul is the first thing I heard. Welcome, my friend. Good to see you. Welcome aboard for the fun times. Welcome aboard, brother. So in all sincerity, guys, when I wrote, I'm not saying that I would in fact, in some ways, the Infernal Vampire's Handbook is still one of the better books I did, because it still holds up pretty good with my philosophy. Some of it might need a little correction here and there. I might have got some of the ideas of your, you might have a different perspective of your energy body and stuff. That's fine. But the principles are basically correct, right? If I were to rewrite it, I might not necessarily aim you at Lilith. I might do it a different way now, because for me, because of things that I'm learning, I feel like, and I believe that a lot of that information is cargo cult, really highly evolved cargo cult. I don't know. I know what Lilith is as an archetype in my mind. I know who that is. I know the being that I've spoken to that matches that archetype and that idea. And maybe it's an interdimensional concept. Maybe I'm speaking to something in another dimension. I don't fucking know. right? But I don't know what you're going to contact through that. And I don't know if that sigil, that name, and those things will comfortably lead you in the right direction anymore. So I would caution, make sure you know what the hell a Lilith is. But I've got news for you from experience. Okay. This is the other reason I haven't taken the book away. Okay. Because I firmly know and believe that you get what you put in. By that, I mean, if your idea of Lilith is this evil blood-sucking bitch, that's who you're going to get. If your idea of Lilith is just a strong feminine archetype that's a little bit on the left-hand path, little dark side, that's what you're going to get. If your idea of Lilith is she is a hyper-feminist, hates men, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get what you aim for when it comes to spiritual conversation. But I don't mean superficially aim for, I mean subconsciously aim for. This is why when a Christian contacts these spirits, they get evil, they expect evil, they get evil. When a left-hand demonologist reaches out to them, they usually get something benevolent. I challenge you guys to go look on the demonolatry groups around Facebook. I challenge you, in fact, go to Demonolatry Worldwide or any of those Facebook groups and post, I encountered XYZ demon and they were mean to me. They were evil. They wanted me to do stuff. You know what you're going to get? Same kind of shit Christians will throw at you. What do I mean by that? Oh, there's no way. There's no way that spirit's evil. They're good. No. I don't know what you got. That wasn't the real Lilith. That wasn't the real King Paimon. That was a Christian. They're going to anything. They will dance and they will attack you because they're tribal. I challenge you, go create an account. I will do it as an experiment sometime. In fact, I will create a fake account. I have just got to be reminded and I have to get the gumption to do it. I will go into one of these like Demonolatry Worldwide and I will make a very believable story about how I worked with a demon and they fucked me over and I think that they're evil. And I can prove to you that a number of people, not all of them, some people will probably reach out and be like, hey, maybe you did it wrong or something. But a bunch of people will get tribal about it and they'll attack you for it. And they will say, you got the wrong one. You got a deceiver, blah, 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 blah. No way my evil demon is a bad guy. This is how you know a lot of this is, I don't mean poser-ish, but they like to wear the dark facade, but really they don't want evil. They just want a little bit edgy. There's nothing wrong with that, obviously. You can be edgy and good at the same time. So understand that here's another thing that I should have included in my lecture in my last video, is that spirituality is very difficult to do objectively, especially working with psychic entities. It's very difficult to get an objective truth out of it. This is why when people say, oh, there's different kinds of entities. You have jinn, you have this, you have that, you have that. It's like, well, of course you do, because there's like, you're not actually doing a bestiary. It's more of a cultural reference, because every time you get a different being, you're talking about a different culture usually. Chinese people don't have jinn. Does that mean that there's no jinn in China? Think. Please think. Does that mean jinn are geographically isolated to the Middle East? Does anybody think that? Raise your hand in the chat if you think that. Do you think jinn are isolated just to that culture and nobody else heard of jinn before? Oh, then they're going to say, oh, they're just, they call them something else. Okay. Now you're starting to see what I'm pointing at. We have different words for something. A thing is not its name, is it? No, of course not.
It's kind of like a hurricane versus a tsunami or monsoon or
labels.
It's just labels.
Yeah.
Look, is this soda or pop?
Oh gosh.
Right?
Over here it's soda. Here in California.
It's soda for me. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, to a great degree, I agree with that, Jasonis. He says, if you're initiating through the guidance of a spirit, then it will be tailored for one's own spiritual growth. I think that's I think that's true. And and it's a give and take relationship too. I think you would have probably said that if you could. He says, principle of correspondence is commonplace. Yes, yes, yes. Very, very true. Very, very true. I agree completely. Like, this is why, but I also think it has a lot to do with you. By that, I mean, you don't realize it because you're incarnate right now, right? As an incarnate being, you're limited to what's in, that's the whole, listen, okay, let me walk it back a minute.
Run it back.
Incarnation, by definition, is to be limited to this physical, and by physical, I mean an illusory physical, because physicality is not real. It is an illusion. Okay, it is the maximal illusion that we experience in our lives. There's probably more so, but this is the max we get. This is a maximal level of delusion. And in that delusion, it is based out of higher ignorance. Okay, you're not aware of the bigger truth. You're aware of only this little bubble of whatever's going on in this imaginary space that you think your head's in. Okay. So incarnation, by definition, is limitation through ignorance or some other, whatever you like to use the word. Okay. So when you're incarnate, you're limited to this physical dumb thing that you're living through, and you're not aware of your higher self. Your higher self is ultimately, your causal body is ultimately what decides what the experiences of this being is going to be. And you don't have knowledge of the causal body. You cannot, for the same reason an eye cannot see itself. The causal body is Brahman, consciousness, the soul, whatever your word for it is. It can be non-dual or dualistic, depending upon your worldview. It can be both. The kind of non-duality I ascribe to is, ultimately it's one soul, but it appears through ignorance to be infinite souls. And so your feeling of being an individual is valid, because no matter how you slice it, you are. You're either Brahman, which is the individual of all things, or you're a segment of you're a microcosm of the macrocosm, which still feels like an individual. That's not wrong. You're not wrong to feel individual. What's wrong is to deny the fact that you're everything. That's the difference. It sounds contradictory until you get the language, until you get the metaphysical language at play. So when you're working with another spirit, it's almost like you have to think about your higher self reaching out through this little probe of a body, trying to connect with something. Okay. And it's in control of it. Why do you think most of these magical traditions try to teach you to contact your higher self, your higher guardian angel? That's a major facet of it. They want you to realize that you can call it your subconscious, you can call it your higher self, whatever you want to call it, getting in touch with that, recognizing it, recognizing consciousness itself is what you are. Those things are the keys. Once you have those keys, everything else starts to fall into place, one work at a time. That's why I focus on that so much, is because that's the master key to everything, is recognizing your consciousness is you. It's not your consciousness, you are it. I think I lost the point, but hopefully I'm making sense. So.
Real quick, you got another super chat.
Did I? Okay, thank you.
Yep. It's from Make Mine a 99, $2. Portland Andy's allowance. He's not streaming.
Wait, hold on. I missed that because Portland Andy's allowance. He's not streaming. Oh, okay. Thank you, Thank you, Make Mine a 99. I'll say it right. Make Mine a 99. Give us $2. Thank you very much, my friend. Portland Andy's allowance. He's not streaming. Thank you very much. So in other words, I got his money because he won't up. I get it. Make Mine a 99 says, no, you did not lose the point. Thank you, Make Mine a 99. I've actually, for various reasons, I have been a little scattered today. You can ask the people around me. I have been like acting like a complete dummy today. I'll ask a dumb question about everything today.
Not necessarily a dummy. I wouldn't say that.
I'm absent-minded. I'm very absent-minded today. Yeah.
Absent-minded, yeah, a little bit.
All right. So, well, anyway.
All the damn vampires.
For whatever reason you gave it to me, Make Mine a 99. I appreciate it, but I'm going to tell you what I told everybody earlier, which is I appreciate all your super chats, but the things I see coming, please, 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 please prepare for the worst coming in this year. Make sure you have, take care of yourself first. Put the oxygen mask on yourself first this year, okay? I mean that about everything. Everything. I don't mean stop helping people. I mean, make sure that put the mask on first. If you're in a financial dire straits situation, help yourself. Don't throw me money right now. Okay? I'll tell you when I want money again. I'm not saying don't give me money. I'm not saying take it back. I'm just saying I don't want people to think that I am money grubbing right now. Because the way I see it, the world is about to shit itself, and you're going to need every dime. You should be buying storable foods. You should be getting ready to go through a period where there might be a breakdown of supply chains for weeks or months at a time. Hopefully it won't be that long. Hopefully just be a few weeks, but there may be breakdowns, or there may be a breakdown a week at a time, but it takes it like it's 30 weeks out of the year, you know, like, oh, I can't get toilet paper this week, or, oh, they don't have any food today at my local grocery store that I can bother eating. The stores are empty, but the delivery's coming tomorrow. That shit might start happening, guys. It won't be permanent. But here's the thing. Once it starts to happen, you saw what happened with the toilet paper. It was just fucking toilet paper. Imagine if you go to the supermarket and there's no meat on the shelves at all. Just one time. All it will take is one time for that to happen, and people will be clearing out those shelves every time they go to the store until they feel it's okay again. I promise you that. If people start to feel like there's a shortage, there will be one, even if there isn't one. So that's all it's going to take is a little hysteria. And there will be hysteria coming. I guarantee it.
Not for nothing, but you know what doesn't help that? Mainstream news. They like to trump up things to make it seem worse than it is. Look at the Christmas tree shortage, the turkey shortage every year for Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Jasoni. Jasoni says, absent-mindedness could be a sign or potential download is coming your way. I love your positive attitude, Jasoni. I don't think that's it, but if it's right, I will, I don't know if I'll let you know, but I will admit it if you question me. I think what happened is I have been burning I've been running very hot. Like, in other words, I've been running on all cylinders for like 6 months to a year of downloads, gnosis, research, awakening, deepening my realization of non-duality, figuring out what's going on with the world. That about a week ago, I started playing Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, and it kind of gave me a break, and I kind of turned it on, and I feel like an idiot right now because I'm literally like, wait, what was the deep shit that I figured out 3 months ago? Like, it's not happening now. Like, it's turned off because I think I just need a break. I burned out a little bit. I need a break. Not burned out like I don't like it. I think I burned out like I burnt the circuit out, and I need to like heal for a little bit. I need some time. I need some rest, basically.
For sure.
So
you gotta breathe.
Happen. Yeah, you gotta breathe once in a while. But I'm fucking addicted to this shit. You know that. And I'm even, and to give Jasonium a little credit and everybody else who thinks a little bit like him with certain ideas, you have to understand, like, now I'm moving into some of those things about frequency, vibration, but I'm not doing that as a fundamental. I'm doing that as part of Maya. To me, those things are a part of Maya. They're not part of the foundation. They're important, but only once you get the foundation built. The foundation must be some form of monism, non-duality, whatever, something like that has to be you have to recognize consciousness as the true self, and that there is no true separation between any bit of consciousness. It's all the same consciousness. So that's the foundation. After that, then all the other shit can be used, because without that being the first thing, those other things can masquerade as the first thing. You can become convinced you're enlightened because you get telekinesis. That's bullshit. That's the opposite of truth. In fact, having telekinesis first makes it harder for a lot of people. Not everybody. Some people would be fine with it. But a lot of people, upon achieving the ability to do telekinesis, for example, say, I must be enlightened because I must be a god. Oh boy. And the ego just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it never goes away, and they never start asking who they really are. Know thyself goes out the window, and it becomes frequency vibration, not consciousness. Meaning the true self of all things. So long as you think it's all frequency, vibration, energy, and ether and vortexes, you're not going to get it. And if there's somebody in a room, one guy has telekinesis, the other guy's enlightened, which do you really want to be? Which one do you really want to be in? Because I can tell you that from experience, subtle telekinesis, everybody can do Sometimes the first try. Did you know that? Almost everybody can get a Seige wheel to work the first, maybe not day, but very quickly after trying. It's not the force where you can move an orange across the room or something, but once you do it a few times, like when I did it the first time, I wasn't enlightened yet. Of course, I can't say I'm enlightened, but you get the point. Telekinesis was like, I don't know, what would you say? It was like 2013, 12 for me. I was like hysterical in the car. I got the thing to move, you know.
Probably around there.
Yeah. Now, are there people who can do macro, like hard, not subtle telekinesis? I believe probably. I can't yet. I'm working on it. Like I'm trying to get something more than a little piece of paper to go, you know? Oh, no, you're good, Mac and Amaya. Telepathy, especially if you mean in terms of like, I don't want to call it empathy because I don't take on people's feelings. I'm aware of people's feelings in ways that they are often not. So that I've got very high. What I don't have is I can't necessarily read your exact words and thoughts. Sometimes.
You know what I liken it to? I liken it to, you know, like the like when you have a special needs animal, like a dog, and they can sense a shift in you where you're going to go into a seizure, and they help you sit down.
Yeah, and then I use my intellect and analysis to figure out what it is exactly that's causing it, and that usually, because there's an interplay between intuition or empathy or whatever and intellect, and I'm figuring it out. So it's not just like I know something's off, or I can tell what you're feeling, and then I reason out why, and I reason it out very quickly because I'm used to it, and I go, I know why they're mad. Right? That could be what's happening. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, Macadamia agrees with you, sweetie. Says, yeah, dogs can. I mean, animals definitely can. My bird, my dog, all of them, they know. Like, I can communicate with them a little bit without talking, or I understand. I've got a step uncle who one time came to visit at the work, and he brought his dogs, and his dogs are unruly. No one can control them.
The story.
So they're all running around. He's yelling at them, throwing around, get back in the car, blah, blah, blah. And they're running around, and I just stood there, and I just sort of like got their attention, and I just stood, and I just body languaged and intentioned them to sit at my feet and pet them, and they did. You can attract a dog and get their attention and get them to obey you, not every time, but you can definitely do it without any words or even without any intentional body language. You can literally just will them. If you can connect to them sympathetically, you can get them to understand you to a point, and they will obey. They will obey because you're not ordering them. You're saying, come here, please. Now, if it's barking and trying to kill you, of course, that probably won't work. I'm not going to say, I don't think I could do that to a rampaging bear or anything, but a nice dog, that could probably work. So sorry about your rest in peace eardrums if I got too close there. Sorry, guys. So yeah, Jasonia says, one thing I've noticed when you are in this phase of burnout, I found out that whatever you are experiencing then, you may do things that help you with your recovery that are non-magic related. Oh yeah, of course. I think when you're psychically burned out because you've been burning that, magic juice too much, I do think that you end up being very grounded in something non-mystical, non-magical for a little while. But I would also suggest, Jasonium, that even though it's not magical or mystical related, something in there has a lesson that you needed that applies ultimately to psychic spiritual stuff. For example, Avatar. I love Avatar. I know it's some woke green stuff. I know that. I know it's like, it's supposed to teach you about, colonizers and all that. And believe me, I understand. Like, that's a thing when people say, like, when I say I'm anti-woke, that doesn't mean I don't get some of the rhetoric. I do. I actually agree with some of the premise, shall we say. I just don't agree with the execution of that premise. I agree with the point you're making. Yes, colonizers suck. Yes, advanced civilizations, usually European, have But not always. By the way, go look at what happens in Asia or go look at what happens in Africa, guys. It's not just white people. White people ain't the devil. We just, for whatever reason, white people managed to do it a little bit better sooner. That's all. Doesn't mean that we're more evil. It just means that for whatever reason, we achieved it. We got to the finish line first. Because if you think white Europeans or white American, that we're the only colonizers, that's political nonsense. That's propaganda. The concept is universal. Every culture, every race, every group does this to some degree. In fact, the groups that don't usually get steamrolled by the ones that do. So what ends up happening? Process of evolution, everybody does it to some degree. There is no such thing as a totally peaceful, non-colonizing civilization. There's only a civilization in harmony. Harmony doesn't mean that you don't ever aggress. It just means that one aggression will cause a balancing act to happen, and it will eventually hit harmony. Okay? That's all it means. So I don't agree with the woke idea that, oh, there's colonizers and they all must go and they're usually white males. That's a political propaganda statement. That's a false conclusion that colonizing is caused by these things. That's not the cause of it. It's way more nuanced than just white males and patriarchy. That's because those are the things that they want to destroy because they've been the foundation of Western civilization for so long. It's not that they're better or worse. It's just that's the foundation. That's why they attack it. It's not because it's wrong. It may be wrong, but the reason they attack it isn't because it's wrong. It's because it's the foundation. If our civilization was matriarchal, they'd attack that. Guaranteed, 100%. If you can't see that big, your eyes aren't open wide enough. Because I know this, because if you go to another country where these same people are working, they'll attack matriarchies, they'll attack whatever you have. The whole point of destabilizing a civilization is to use subversion and attack the foundation of that culture so it can't function on its own, and then you take over. When everybody no longer believes in the founding fathers, and they hate their history, and they hate their culture, and they hate their own race, they're easy fucking pickings, aren't they? Why do you think we put the poor Indians in freaking reservations and taught them to not believe it? Come on! I'm gonna get mad now because I see it happening and it's like, fuck you. Think, all of you people who lean left, who go, oh, I hate white people and this and that and everything. I know you're not listening to me, but some of you guys are aware of this. Really think for a minute. Are they not doing the same thing to European and white and American? And by white, I'm not trying to be racist about it, but it's obvious, guys. I can't deny it any minute for 1 minute longer. It's really focused on one group. Are they not doing or trying to do the same thing that they did to those oppressed groups? Are they not telling you that your leaders are shit, your traditions are shit, your country is shit, your history is shit, everything about you sucks? You don't deserve what you have. We're better than you. We're going to fix. It's the same shit. It's just tailored to fuck us up. That's all. It's the same thing we did to the Native Americans, the same thing we did to Africans, the same thing we did to the Middle East. And if you go, and now I know more about Western civilization than Eastern, but if you look, you see the same things happening there to different groups. You think all the Asians get along perfectly? You think all Eastern people get along perfectly? You think all Aboriginal people around the universe have gotten along? No. This idea that it's one group destroying the world. It's madness. It's fucking madness. And the fact that anybody gives in to that even an inch, the only reason I stay a little quiet about it is I don't feel like getting canceled while the bad guys still control the whole system. Guess what? They don't control it so much anymore. So I'm starting to talk about it a little bit more. I will never attack someone based on race or any of that stuff. I don't believe in that. I think that's bullshit. I want everybody in this planet to get along and uplift each other and go on ascension, period. I don't care what your race, your ethnicity, your nationality, your culture. I want you to have your space to be. So don't you dare ever, hearing what I say out of context, come here and say, Thorne's a racist bigot because he's talking about white people being a target of right replacement or something. No,
No, I learned that from minority friends that I grew up with to stand up for what I am. You feel me? I'm not going to back down. I wouldn't back down for you or from you. And you shouldn't either. If you feel like you're being oppressed by things, you shouldn't back down either. Why do you think I didn't get all up in arms like, oh, BLM's evil? I don't necessarily agree with, like I said to you guys earlier, Seige and Camilla, I grew up in the damn 80s. If BLM existed in the 80s, I would have been marching with them. Because I saw firsthand, BLM should have happened in the 70s or 80s. It would have made sense. Take out the Marxist shit. Just make it the point. That movement that happened in 2020 should have happened in 1982. Then it would have had legs to stand on that were justified, in my opinion. I don't disagree with the premise one bit that police are this and they're draconian, they're dangerous. I don't disagree with that to a large degree. I have police friends who agree with that premise, by the way. Friends, like real life friends. I know police officers that if I asked them, they'd be like, BLM is bullshit, but they got a point about police brutality and things. One of my friends who's a cop was commenting on the Derek Chauvin and George Floyd thing. He's like, look, I don't know what happened there except that he killed that man. In other words, he doesn't know why. He doesn't know what the whole situation was. He just knows that that was not how you do things. You could argue he died from fentanyl, except as a used to be practicing martial artist, you don't put your knee on somebody's neck unless you mean it. Now somebody's gonna say, well, that didn't do it. I get it. We can argue about that all day long. I'm just going by my opinion and the cops' opinions, friends that I have. People understand that shouldn't have happened. Even Trump said that shouldn't have happened, boys and girls.
It's like that whole thing, like you don't point a gun at somebody unless you intend to kill them.
Yeah.
You don't put your knee on somebody's neck unless you intend to kill them.
But you want to know something fun? I don't think that was an organic incident in the slightest.
Both of them had ties to a club. Clubs are notoriously part of mobs and different cartel organizations, notoriously. Ninurta, could you back me up on this? You might know, because I know you know the other side of the tracks better than I do. Is it true or is it not true that almost every club somewhere on the dotted line, somewhere there's a mafia involved? Okay. So when you got cops that are working for clubs as bouncers, which Derek Chauvin was. And again, this is all allegedly, I can't prove any of it. This is just suspicion data point stuff. When you have these clubs, you have a cop running and working in the club as a bouncer. There's a very good chance that that cop's dirty. In fact, no offense to my friends that might do that, there is a very good chance that that cop is dirty.
And Nerta says yes.
Yeah, I think he's saying that, yes, primarily about the mafia part, but he can probably cover me on the cop part too. That is not to say all cops are evil. Now, did you know that Derek Chauvin and George Floyd understood each other? In other words, they knew of each other from that job? That one was a bouncer inside, one was a bouncer outside? What if that was a staged event? I'm not saying that nobody died. I'm saying, what if somebody was like, hey, Derek, you know that time you roughed up that guy and murdered that other person? Yeah, we're going to leak that and you're going to go down for that too? Or you're going to go down for that? Or you kill this guy and we get you a plea deal or whatever and, you know, you'll go through the jail ride, but you won't, you know, it could be worse, in other words. What if they held something over his head? What if they staged that to cause riots and cause chaos? Everyone has cops and judges paid off, correct? Correct, Make Mine and 99. They worked together, or at least they worked at the same place. And I'm pretty sure that was smoke from another fire if it was intentional. I do not think that man died purely from an overdose. I'm sorry. For all we know, because you don't see really much from the other side, do you? You mostly only see that one view, and the little bit of video you see from the other side, you don't see clearly. For all you know, when they had him on the ground, someone took a whole fuck ton of fentanyl and shoved it in his ass. Are you listening to me? How dare you think that they're above doing shit like that? They do wet work all the time and make it look like accidents all the goddamn time. Wake the hell up. I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm saying if you're not thinking that way, you're still asleep. You still don't get it. I could be wrong about that, but the possibility exists. You can go, I don't think they would do that. I mean, you know, cops are checked and blah, 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 blah. And yet we all know dirty cops exist.
I mean, and they've been known in the past to plant drugs on people.
Known? Yes, you're right, dear.
You think people would just do that? Just make up lies and stories?
Like, why would people lie? That's so crazy. What the fuck? That's not, no.
Someone completely, you know,
Yep.
wrong political persuasion or some shit.
People are listening to this going, Thorne's paranoid.
Et cetera.
No, you're not paranoid enough. You don't know the real world. You know the matrix that they've created for you. Listen to me, Neo. You don't know shit. I only know, like, you might not even know shit. I know a log of shit. But there's a mountain of shit. So I'm just learning myself, guys. Trust me. I'm not acting. I know I'm acting like I'm all better than you. I'm doing that to challenge you. Prove me wrong. Prove me that you're better at this. But you got to try not to be delusional. That's the hard part, is because so much of this, in order to find out the truth, you have to take the risk. You have to take the safety rails off. You have to take the guardrails off and go down the hill without any protection. You've got to literally, it's like going onto the dark web when that used to mean something. I'm not sure it does anymore, but it used to mean something. It's like going on the dark web. You got to protect yourself. You have to have discernment. In that case, a VPN and a Tor browser. At a minimum. I'd probably do more than that these days. So, and not that I've done it, that's what I've heard. I mean, a friend told me. But you see what I'm saying? You have to literally start thinking like a criminal. Lucky for me, I grew up in an environment full of criminals, so it's kind of second nature for me to think like one a little bit. Right, Ninurta? Ninurta's gonna like, stop pointing at me. He just says the cops did it to his brother. Yep. Don't doubt it. Especially if you got a little pigment in your skin. No offense to people who don't think that there definitely used to be a lot of, there still is. It's just you don't see it in the white bread neighborhood. Like, that's the reason why I didn't go out of my way to attack BLM, because it's like, I can't deny what they're trying to say because there's truth to it. That doesn't mean that all cops are bad. It doesn't mean we need to burn down cities. I oppose that. But at the same time, I'm like, in 2010 or something, I wrote this essay about how more people have been killed by cops in this country than in the Gulf War in like a span of a year or something like that. And how unsettling that number is. More people were killed by cops in America in that year than American soldiers died in all of the years of the Gulf War at the time. That's a troubling number. Even if you say that they were all justified, that's still a troubling number. That's a number to worry about. Why are cops killing that many people? And were they all 100% justified? I don't think they were. Let's say 10% of them are unjustified. That's too many. That means cops are criminals. So I do agree with the point. The premise. Remember what I said before? I agree with many of the premises of the woke left. I don't agree with the execution or the extent that they take them. I don't agree with all the premises. I don't agree that white people are bad. I don't agree with any of that. What I agree with is that there is issues. There's always been issues, and some of them are validly wrong. So that's all I'm saying. You guys have to be a little bit, all of you guys have to be a little bit more, like I said, I don't want you to become paranoid. Paranoid's the wrong word. You need discernment, and you need to have your head on a swivel, and you need to start thinking like a criminal thinks. Most people have not been raised in an environment where they have to think that way ever in their life, either to protect themselves or to carry it out. Let me give you guys an example. You're walking down It's late at night. You're walking through the city. This is going to be a little hard for me to describe. Just give me a second. You're walking through the city late at night. You're walking through a bad part of town. You made a mistake, whatever it is. You know you shouldn't be doing it, but you have to. Your car broke down, whatever the reason is. So you're walking through a bad part of town at night. And you see somebody walking ahead of you. And you see them walking, and then suddenly they kind of look over their shoulder. Almost just to make sure, like, is somebody around me, whatever. No problem. Doesn't look suspicious to you, but you notice that. Then you see them, they walk a little bit further, and then all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, they just kind of dart to the side, and it looks like they go in a building. Do you just keep walking straight? What do you do? I want you to think about this very carefully, what I just described to you. What do you do? Because I got news for you. Go ahead, Seige.
No, I would just say, make sure they went into a building and, like, I can keep walking past. I wouldn't trust it.
Right. Now, I made that easy because I pointed out 2 big pieces of information, but what if it actually happened to you? Really? Don't just tell me what you think. I want you to be honest with yourself, especially if you're not used to bad neighborhoods or something. That scenario happens. You will get someone if you get a criminal ahead of you, there might be 4 of them behind you, by the way, you didn't see. That's the other part I didn't mention. So let's take a bird's eye DM, the DM's view of the situation. The real situation is that guy who's been walking ahead of you, when he finds out you're behind him, he darts into a doorway or a dark alley, and he lies in wait for you. If you walk past that spot, there's a good chance they're going to pop out and grab you. And there's an even better chance that he's not alone and there's 3 or 4 guys behind you who are going to push you into that doorway to make sure. How do I know? Because I had friends who got jumped that way. Somebody's going to be listening and be like, that doesn't happen. It fucking does happen. Do you know why a guy comes up and asks you if you know what time it is? Or if you got a cigarette or some change? Don't you dare take both your hands out of your pockets, stupid. At least leave one hand in your pocket and make it look like you've got your hand. In fact, if you want to really fuck them up, turn so that your right hip is back so it looks like you're guarding a weapon, and then reach into your other pocket and pull out your phone. That's why I keep my phone on my left. Just so you know, not giving too much away. This way, if you do come up and say, what time is it? I can give you a little bit of my left shoulder and grab my phone. And keep my right hand in a place where it looks like I could pull out if I don't carry. And if I do, I usually have a knife or something. You got me? Because I grew up in a shit neighborhood. I know. Even though I never had to do that. Thank God. Whatever that is.
Thank God I'm an atheist.
See, Jasonius I think Jasonius does martial arts. He probably has that head on his shoulders. He does probably think that way a little bit. And I know Nanerta does. But how many of you guys would have thought that way? 90, I bet you a lot of you wouldn't. I bet a lot of you guys don't know what I just said is the barest ass minimum to do on the streets. You got to think like a criminal. Criminals are cowardly, most of them. Not all. Some of them are hopped up, crazy, whatever. Most of them are cowardly. Why do you think there's that old saying, take out the big one first with the most bloody, aggressive thing you can do? Because a lot of times the others will run away. They're not usually looking to add murder to their charge. You hear me? If you already took one down, that means they're all going to go down, right? I'm not saying you should always fight, by the way. I'm just saying. That's all I'm saying. They're generally cowards. If they weren't, they wouldn't use 12 people on you. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying attack every time. I'm just saying, because that's not the right answer either, by the way. Sometimes the rightest answer in the world is just give them the fucking money and say, thank you, have a nice day. What was that movie? There was a movie Steve Martin was in, and it was, he's literally goes to the ATM and he takes out money, and there's a guy just standing there. He's like, hi, my name's Bob. I'll be your mugger for today. And Steve Martin just gives us money. Yeah, here you go. Thanks. It's fucking hilarious.
The classic New York City experience.
Except it was LA. But
Oh,
yes.
the classic LA experience.
Yeah, the classic LA experience.
Interchangeable.
Interchangeable to a great degree. Absolutely. So
The classic mugging.
so all I'm saying, guys, is have that mentality when you're talking about the government. Have that mentality. So, my poor sweet summer children. That same attitude that I have on the streets is the attitude I have about CNN, Fox, DC. Exactly the same attitude.
They've been freaking guarding the Epstein freaking client list for the longest time. Like,
yeah. Do you see what I mean? One of my new sayings is they've taught you to be skeptical of everybody but them. They've taught you to mistrust everybody but them. They're the authority. You must. It's an appeal to authority. They always use sophistry because they can't use truth. When you understand what sophistry is, you know who the liars are. In fact, if it was up to me, raising kids, there would be a course on rhetoric, sophistry, and all that shit that would be mandatory by age fucking 10. It would begin before you were age 10. It would be drilled into you as a little kid. And I wish I had thought of this earlier because I would raise my kid that way. I wish I had. I think I did by accident, but I didn't do it on purpose. Every child should be raised with a strong grasp of rhetoric and sophistry so that they don't do the one and they recognize it in the other, and that way they can know when they're being bullshitted. That goes a long way to critical thinking, is just knowing sophistry. If you know sophistry and how it works, you may still occasionally fall into the trap of using it. I think it's hard not to sometimes, especially in our culture. But as a rule, you'll be able to at least see it in the world and go, I can't trust that group because they're using it. All right. Let's turn back towards some mystical shit. What time is it? 12:46?
Yep.
All right. So let's go over some spooky fun topic before we close out. What do you think is the most convincing, and I mean this like if you can, and I want to have a volunteer for who goes first, and I want you to elaborate, please. What do you think is the most convincing piece of aliens are real evidence that you've seen? What is the thing that is like, okay, I can't argue it anymore. I'm down. Like, what do you think is the one that would, within reason, convince somebody?
There's a lot of shit. I think mine would be like the leaks from the Navy.
Okay.
What are the leaks? What are you talking about, Camila?
All the disclosure from the Navy, like all the videos and the radio chatter.
Yeah, there were so many.
Because it's on record. It's not just on the internet floating around AI generated shit. It's it has a source.
You have so many people in authority coming out recently, giving out this information. And it's crazy. You have that. I remember me and you, DH and Camila, we were watching that documentary about a lot of this alien shit going on.
Above Majestic, yeah, where I told you 80-20, 80-20, and then I inverted it because the one guy's a nutbag and you.
But I remember it was showing that part with the elongated skulls, right? And it was showing, the people in like Africa, Egypt were doing it, and then
they were emulating it. They were copying it. Yep.
Who was? And there were people they were wearing hats to like emulate that,
like the Pope.
Yeah, and then I went to the Pope. I was like, holy shit, that was pretty wild. And it's just like there's a lot of connection there, and it's just like there's something there.
One theory is that the elongated skull means a bigger pineal gland. That's one theory. I don't know if that one I buy, but because a lot is, one reason why, as much as I think there's something to the pineal gland, I am a little suspicious of it, is how hard it's promoted. It's almost like it's a flat earth psyop, almost. I'm not saying it is, by the way, because I think it is something to it, because fluoridation, all these things, they do impact it, right? Most of our modern diet's almost designed to calcify that thing. So, and it's almost unavoidable unless you have like a almost like monk lifestyle, So I don't know, but it does beg the question, right? Is that why? Because they had bigger pineal glands, amongst other things. Just a thought.
Couple
Yeah.
things. You have 2 super chats. One from Jay Sauber for $4.99. And before I get to the next super chat, I want to mention Christian mentioned the remote viewing of the underground bases. Y-Files did a fantastic episode of that one.
Yeah, he actually posted that before he even brought it up. He posted it.
Okay.
He posted that one in Aliens and shit. Yeah.
I freaking love that episode. And there's a question for Patchwork for $5. Have you guys read Behold the Pale Horse by Bill Cooper?
No, but I'm very familiar with Bill Cooper, at least superficially, in the sense that he started it all for a lot of people. So I should look more into him. But this actually leads me into Bluebeam. So for me, I don't know when I could say it, because part of my reason for flipping had nothing to do with, oh, I saw a video. Can I make that clear? I mentioned on Facebook like 3 or 4 months ago that I'm on Team Alien now, but for reasons I can't really disclose. That doesn't mean, no, I'm not getting picked up by aliens or something stupid, okay? It's just, I can't even say why without like ruining the reason why. We'll just leave it at that. I cannot say why I changed my mind right now. I can tell you what it wasn't. I wasn't picked up by aliens. I didn't see a UFO. I didn't drop enough of acid or weed or something. Nothing like that. Okay. I'm just going to leave it at that. But then whatever it was that caused me to change my mind a little bit opened the door. And then I started researching again with the modern information available to me. And I realized the scales were on my eyes. They had to get pulled away. I was just in denial. The good thing about just being in denial, especially if you used to believe, is that the stuff you used to believe doesn't go away. You can switch that shit right back on. That's all.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah. So, Bluebeam, here's my speculative belief about Bluebeam. Are they using Bluebeam right now? Yes and no. I think at least they probably were. I don't think that they necessarily are now. I don't know. But I will tell you that Bluebeam wasn't just going to fake an alien invasion. Hear me very carefully, okay? Please listen to me carefully. I say that when I want you to listen and trust me. Like, I have a very strong intuitive hit about this. What I think is the case is that the powers that be are ruled by a faction of aliens, and I do it like that to encompass all spiritual beings, extra-dimensional beings, extraterrestrial beings, whatever you're thinking is the powers that be. There is a faction of alien beings to our world, or at least our dimension, that have been running that shit show. They may be the bad guys that are imprisoned here. They may be invading. Who the fuck knows what they are? Because I don't know objectively what they are. I just know that they're all throughout the occult. They're all throughout everything. Like I said, if you go far enough in the New World Order, the front wall is Satanism, and the inner house is aliens, interdimensional beings, reptiles, and shit, weird, crazy shit like that. I guarantee it. So whatever the hell it is, they have enemies. Anyone who tells you, like Dr. Greer, who says every single non-human being that visits this planet is a good guy, I think he does that for propaganda reasons, because he doesn't want people leading with fear. He's trying to get the fear quelled, because he knows the New World Order was going to use fear, because the negative entities are already here. You got me? That's one thing he says without saying. The bad guys are already here. They're us. They're our government. There are the black ops guys. Not the black ops guys. You know what I'm talking about. The dark programs and all.
The psyops guys.
Yeah, the bad guys. The hidden guys, the cabal. He also believes in extra-dimensional beings. He says that those really negative ones, they're interdimensional. They're not extraterrestrial. He says the extraterrestrials are pretty much all good. Maybe, I kind of have a maybe on that. I don't disagree. It's possible that's completely true. Maybe all of the 3D beings in this universe that are extraterrestrials that visit us might be benevolent, or at least not malevolent. They might be neutral. I agree with the possibility. I'm not saying he's outright wrong. I'm just saying I'd like to see the proof of that. But what if, let me give you a scenario. What if this planet is ruled by negative entities, be they aliens from another dimension or another planet, and they have enemies that might have an interest in saving us from them? And what if, for whatever reason, they're not here because they've said, let's come back in 500 years, or if we get the bat signal, we'll come back and help them. And what if a while ago, people tried to get that bat signal out and they sent some scouts to check it out and we used technology and knocked them down like Roswell? What if Roswell wasn't just an oopsie? What if he used like a scalar weapon or guided them in or something and made them crash? What if? Just a speculative thought, because that's part of the lore too, if you know where to look. That's built into it. A lot of Stephen Greer says this, and I feel like there's truth to it. It makes no sense that aliens would come from a million light years away and then, oops, we hit a telephone pole. Does that make sense to anybody listening? Does it make sense that they came here and just, oopsie? I don't buy that for a minute, do you? They have the technology to cross dimensions, time, space, and then just, what, a bird hit their engine? There was a storm? No. So no, I'm pretty sure we shot that fucker down.
Or got
Whatever it
hijacked by
was.
space terrorists.
Right? Yeah. Maybe they were aliens, or maybe they were just Nazis.
Roswell
that
was an
escaped.
inside job.
Yes, it was. Well, maybe they were Nazis. Possible too. If you know the lore about Operation High Jump and Odin Departure and Maria Orsic and the Vril Society, you know and the Hanabos and all this shit that they were building and the videos that Russia leaked that shows the goddamn things flopping around trying to take off. God damn, there's so much shit out there you don't know. None of us know. It's tantalizing and terrifying at the same time. So what if there are aliens ruling this planet or extra-dimensional beings or whatever that are negative, and there are positive or at least benevolent ones that would like to help us, but they get turned away every time? What if the point of Bluebeam was to actually stage a false flag so that the entire world militarized into a weapon against them from coming to rescue us from them? Did that occur to you guys? I wonder if anybody thought of that. What if Bluebeam wasn't just to stage a fake alien invasion so we all unite? What if it was to stage a fake alien invasion so that when the good guys come to pull us out of the problem of the New World Order or whatever it is, we attack them instead of saying thank you for helping us? It's the ultimate hostage. What do you think they did with 9/11? Did they or did they not get America to decide that the Middle East had to die?
You know, I just want to say a common misconception that a lot of people don't understand is false flag doesn't mean it didn't happen. It means that the means of it happening are not what is said.
Yeah.
Like the whole Sandy Hook thing.
Careful.
I know.
You
I know.
could get sued for $1 billion.
No, I completely understand that. It's not that it didn't happen. I am not saying it didn't happen. I know people died.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jasonium, it's probably, I have a big hard on for Tesla too. I think that, and I don't think he's actually the first in recent history to develop some of these things. I think he was just one of the ones who got the most notoriety because he developed more of it. Tesla, so I think I agree with Dr. Greer when he says they use scalar weapons. If you understand what scalar energy is, it's not even energy when you know what I mean. Scalar, they call it scalar waves. It's not scale. It's not a wave, guys. Scalar is, I'm going to use Ken Wheeler's demonstration of it. Okay. I need a cord here. We'll use this. So a normal wave, can you guys, it's a black cord. Let me get a light cord. Do I have a light cord here?
Black cord on the black background.
Yeah, that's not going to work. Where are you, motherfucker? Here it is. We'll use this. I'll use my death whistle. Anyway, so you guys can see that chord, right? So a normal wave is this, right? That's a normal wave. That's just a normal tension, you know, it's a medium that's vibrating, right? That's a normal wave. That's what normal energy looks like. A scalar thing is like this.
Straight.
It's not even going like this. It's going like this, okay? It is a solid static, in other words, it has no flexibility. It's got zero, I don't want to say it's a higher or lower dimension, but it's something transcendent to physical. That it doesn't bend or flex or move. It's not a wave in the usual sense. It is literally a rigid field or a rigid energy or whatever. It doesn't actually bend and contort. It's moving in a way that looks like waves, but the waves aren't traveling anywhere. It's instant. So in other words, if I push on this end of the pen, instantly the other end pops up.
Right, it's like the wobbly pencil illusion.
Yeah, a little bit. So it's like an instant. So a scalar weapon would put energy here and instantly it would pop out here. 0 time delay. You could use that for transmission of, okay, guys, Fermi paradox. There's no aliens because we don't see radio signals and aliens would take forever to travel around. Except if scalar is real. If scalar is real, you could have instant point-to-point communication anywhere in the universe. Bing! It is a perfectly rigid field, meaning it doesn't flex. See, normally what you don't see is if I push on this end, there is a little flex in it. So there is actually a delay. If I poke this end, there's a tiny little, you can't even detect it, delay between when I push on this end and this end pops up. But a scalar object, a scalar wave, a scalar energy field doesn't have that. It's instant. When you push on one end, it instantly moves the other end, instantly. That's the dumbest down version of it I can tell you, because I don't understand the math, but I do understand the principle. That's the dumbest down version I can explain it to you.
You got another super chat.
Read it to me, baby.
This one's from Patchwork for $5. Sweet gods, Thorne is onto something. This may be why the powers that be have demonized the idea of an alien invasion.
Haven't they made it the scariest thing ever and the most likely thing ever? Guys, Stephen fucking Hawking, Epstein boy who liked the midgets, supposedly, allegedly. You know what he said? If there are aliens out there, we should avoid them. Looking at all the times that an inferior civilization has encountered a more advanced one, it always goes bad for the inferior one. Fear-mongering.
I mean, even just when you think about all the Hollywood movies about aliens, is there ever a peaceful, happy one?
Right?
Where everyone just gets along? It always resorts to war of some sort.
Mm-hmm. Shift happens, time is an illusion in the first place. That's part of the problem, is that we have been taught things that are not completely true. Time is not a force. It is not an energy. It is not a causal. It's nothing like that. Time is a flow of conscious awareness from one point in the dimension of what we call time to another. And of course, that's all illusory. So in the non-dual understanding of metaphysics, coupled with our modern understanding of things, Maya is the physical reality and the astral as well. Literally everything that is not just pure being and consciousness is Maya. Okay. Time is part of the illusion of Maya. There is no such thing as time. It is only an eternal present. Every moment is the present. There is no before, there is no after, there is only now. The problem is now is eternal. Now is eternal in the sense that everything that exists always exists as potential and can manifest at any time. You can manifest anything that has ever happened. You can't necessarily, in order to, so this is where it gets a little tricky, is because we are, as three-dimensional beings in our minds, we cannot easily conceive of a reality in which time is not a requirement. But if you really, you can step out if you cheat a little bit. If you create what's called a block time universe or a block time multiverse, if you look it up, A block time universe is a concept in which the entire universe exists from beginning to end as one instant in which something called an observer is traveling. The observer moves through the block time. So there is only an instant. Now that is a cheat because that's not how it really is, but that's a cheat to help your mind think about it. Think of it like a book. I've used the book analogy a billion times. Let me grab a book. Okay. Is all the information of this book in this instant? The whole thing is in there, right? Does time generate these pages one moment at a time when you read it? No. It's all here. You open the book and your consciousness, shall we say, is shifting from word to word. As your consciousness shifts from word to word, what happens? It manifests in your experience, in your mind's eye, as that information and story. So, your soul, this consciousness that you are, that you feel as you, is what is moving. Time is not moving. And when I say it's moving, I have to use that word because we don't have a word for what I'm saying. Your mind is moving. Your soul is changing perspective through a temporal dimension. And of course, that temporal dimension is just our word for it. So in the phenomenal linguistic world that you're describing, Shift, you're right. In the apparent world, it looks like time is flowing from moment to moment. That's not what's happening. Think of a movie reel. When you're watching a movie, does not the whole movie exist as that reel of film all at once? Can you not have it as a static thing in which the entire movie exists simultaneously? Of course you can. But in order to see it as a movie, you've got to string it out and watch it frame by frame. So what if reality is no different? It is no different. Reality is an instant, an eternal instant, and it is ignorance, a little bubble of awareness in ignorance that is shifting through what you call time. But time is just a possible direction. It is not a movement, it is a direction. It's a dimension. But that dimension is part of an illusory whole. You guys need to do a deeper dive into metaphysics, I'm telling you. If you're basing everything you think on what they're telling you, you got to go watch my last video, the lecture that I deal with, they're lying to you. If you think that they're telling you the truth about time, space, matter, energy, you're full of shit and you don't even know it because they pumped it into you and called it cotton candy. I understand that I can't convince you just by saying that. But if you enter a deep enough state of samadhi, you know what time is because it goes away. Thank you, Shift. And I want to be clear, I recognize I cannot convince you guys in one dialogue on a live stream. I'm not here to convince you. I just want you to think. I want you to question what they tell you. Does any scientist have a clue what time is? So why do you act like it can't be what I'm saying? I don't mean you, by the way, Shift. I mean in general. This is the problem I have. Again, people have been taught, and I don't mean you, Shift. This is the problem I have, again, is that people have been taught to be skeptical of people like me, but never PBS space-time, never Harvard, never... Wait a minute, didn't Harvard just have a whole bunch of bullshit go on with some important person named Gay or something, and now everyone's saying maybe Harvard isn't that great? Look, guys, I'm telling you, one by one, every domino is falling. The scales are going to be pulled from your eyes, whether you want them to be or not. In your lifetime, we're all going to be proven wrong about a lot of shit, including me. But I'll tell you one thing, I'm not going to be proven wrong for doubting. That's the one thing I'll get right no matter what. So all I'm saying is they don't know what time is because time is an illusion. Space is an illusion. Physicality is an illusion. That doesn't mean it stops working. It just means it's an illusion. Like playing a video game. Is a video game a kind of illusion? Yes. Link does not exist. It's a bunch of pixels in a green looking suit type of thing. It's not real. There is no Legend of Zelda, at least not in this universe. It's a video game. So it's an illusion. But if I plugged you into that video game from birth, Would you know it was an illusion? No, you'd think it was reality. But the reality of that game is the computer. You could turn the monitor off and the game can keep running. It doesn't need you to watch it. So you feel like there's an objective reality. The objective reality is a computer. But what if I told you you are the computer? What if I told you that you are the whole thing running Universe 1.0 right now?
You're the
As a
one viewing the
simulation.
computer.
Yeah, you're the one viewing the computer and you are the computer. This is why simulation, guys, what if I told you simulation theory was one of their last attempts to stop the inevitable? Please listen to me, please. What if I told you simulation theory was just one of their latest attempts to try to keep you from figuring it out? Because a lot of people are figuring it out all of a sudden. Or conversely, let me take that and put it in the white hat's hand. What if the white hats are putting that out there to get people thinking about that? So that when they say, oh, it wasn't a computer simulation, it's a simulation in the mind of the divine. What if I told you Hermeticism is closer to the truth and non-duality? The two of them, you put Hermeticism and non-duality together, you're pretty much at gold. You pretty much got it, in my opinion. And then you take the other stuff, the frequency, the vibration. Those are the rules of this phenomenal dimension. Height, weight, length. All those kinds of things that you're used to as physicality, that is the form that this possible paradigm appears in us. And there's an infinite number of possibilities. Countless. It doesn't have to be this universe. It could be any universe. Why do you think every ancient culture had this idea? Especially, that's why I love Hinduism. They have this idea that there's countless, just like you reincarnate countless times, so does the universe. Guys, think about that. So we're looking at a scenario where the powers that be are scrambling to get you not to figure this out. And if you do, they want to make sure you're on the love and light path that they can control with their bullshit on TikTok. Can I get a hello, says the guy, Ralph Smart, who knows exactly what I'm talking about, because he seems to be one of the few who is like love and light for real. He's tuned in as hell, by the way. I got to give I got to give Ralph Smart credit. Like, I hope I see him on the UFO. We'll put it that way. I hope I see him in the afterlife. I hope I see him wherever. I'd love to hang out with that dude because I think he knows. I think he knows a lot of what I'm saying. So there is source, consciousness, causal body, Brahman. That is existence itself, and it is conscious. It is consciousness. And it is boundless and limitless. Everything that can be is what it is. In fact, not even everything that can be, it is everything that can be. How about that? We'll flip it around. Instead of saying it's limited to what can be, it limits what can be. How about that? It decides what can and can't be by virtue of its own emergent mind. And the highest mind of that is an impersonal, just dream. And that dream has infinite form and dimension. It can be anything. And in that dream are countless worlds, solar systems, universes, whatever. And in each one of those, there are countless people, places, and things, and animals and everything. And each one of them is an opportunity for it to know itself. And so it indulges in that constantly because time is an illusion. So the same divine being that is me, is you, is my wife, is Seige, is my cat, is my dog. This is why you're not supposed to go off half-cocked killing everybody. Although you can, because it's just a dream. You're not really killing anyone. I don't recommend it, though. The trauma alone is why you don't do it. Patchwork the Kabbalion is not Hermeticism. I'm not saying, okay, that's a harsh, I'm going to say it's Hermetic in theme, but it is not Hermeticism. The Kabbalion is what's called New Thought. It is mentalism. It is inspired by Hermeticism. It draws from heaven. Like, it's more like something I would write. So the Kabbalion is okay, but I could pick a few parts of it apart very easily. There's some things that are not logically consistent, for one thing. Hermeticism, on the other hand, is. Hermeticism, the core of... Let me give you guys... So take your Kabbalion, Patchy. Kabbalion is like... That's like TikTok Hermeticism. Grab this book as a primer. Start here, and you can end here. Start and end here if you want. This is the bare minimum. Read this book. This is probably the best. I researched really long and hard to find the best doorway into it. This book right here. Can you see it? I swear by this book. This and non-duality. You get those two, you got more than 90% of occultists, mystics, or people that claim to be mystics, I should say. You've got more than 90% of the people out there. You don't have the Ken Wheeler stuff. You don't have the Tesla stuff. That's true. And that might not be for you. I'm not good at math, so I've got to do this more philosophically than I can mathematically. I am the philosopher that goes, oh, that sounds right. So I'm sorry, Patchy. I don't agree with the Kabbalion. I'm not saying it's a bad book. I tried reading it. I'm like, this is very, it's like Hermeticism light, or Hermeticism 1800s style. It's not quite, it's missing something. It's cool but like, again, if you Google it and you be like, is the Kabbalion Hermeticism, you're going to get like the whole, like, that's the baby witch Hermeticism, right? That's the baby bat. That's not the full thing. So I recommend that book first. Maybe some other people could have some others they recommend, but that's what I would start with.
Just to be fair, he did drop you a super chat as well.
Oh, okay. Would you mind reading it to me?
$2. This is why I study Hermeticism. I want to know.
Yeah. I'm going to give you another source besides that book. Look up the New York Vedanta Society of New York, Swamiji. Watch all of his videos. Combine that with Hermeticism. And I wouldn't say that's where you should stop, but if you do that, your foundation of metaphysics will be very high level. If you grasp both of those, not just intellectually, but if you reach a state of gnosis of them, in other words, you get into samadhi and you can validate them through mystical practice, you've got it. I'm not saying there isn't more to learn. I'm just saying you've got it's like you figured out how to drive, right?
He's also asking another super chat for $2. Who's it by? I'm about to order a copy.
Timothy Freaky and Peter Gandy. I'll just hold that up.
Freke, freak.
Yeah. Dion Fortune's Kabbalah book is excellent, but I don't know much about Kabbalah to start with, so I can't compare. I will say that Dion Fortune's book made me realize I didn't need it. Does that make sense? When I read Dion Fortune's book, she starts off brilliantly saying that Kabbalah is fundamentally not really any different. I mean, it's objectively different, but fundamentally it's no different than non-duality or Hermeticism. She points this out. It is the Advaita or the Vedas or the whatever of the West, of the Western occult tradition. I personally don't really like Kabbalah, like stylistically, and I believe it's overly complicated. That doesn't mean it doesn't function. It does. Some people, they need that. Some people need that level of complexity. But if you know how to understand it, I can sort of help you like bypass some of the steps. You have to understand that those lower Sephirah are all the things that you as an incarnate being are capable of fully integrating. Everything above that, reaching up eventually, to Ein Sof, you can't penetrate into Ein Sof. Ein Sof is source, consciousness, Brahman. Ein Sof is Brahman. And it's actually Ein Sof, and Ein Sof Brahman, or Brahma in this case, Vishnu and Shiva. It's a Trimurti, it's a Trinity. A Trinity as one. Ein Sof. So it's very close. Doth, you know, that some people would argue that's gnosis because it's not a real set, but it's an egoless realization. That's the sphere of Doth. That's why it's sphereless. There's no ego there. Boop. So it's yeah, Jasonius. I agree it's easy to understand, but I feel like it's overly complicated, like symbolically. This is why I prefer Advaita and Hermeticism. They're more straightforward. They just tell you, you're God, or you're a child of God. And by child, they don't mean somebody fuck somebody, or you're some kind of separate entity. They mean child the same way my hand and my finger. My finger is a child of my hand. You are a child of God in the same sense. You, the person, are a child of a larger being. And by that, I don't mean separate. I don't mean individual from it. I mean, you are a part of it, but you feel separate. You feel like one. You feel like an individual. You're a child of it, like a branch of a tree. That's why if you look at the older versions of Kabbalah, it was literally a tree.
Really?
It didn't even have that shape. It was literally like, go Google early Tree of Life Kabbalah. It's not that neat little geometric shape.
Real quick, before you get into another tangent, I'm gonna have to log off.
Yeah, I think we're going to call it in a minute anyway. So
Same here.
I'm shot. I gotta get to bed.
Caffeine wore off.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Patchy, you're going to love that. I do like the book. Please don't misread me when I say I don't want to work with it. Like, reading that book taught me I didn't really need that book. That is to say, it's not that there's nothing I could learn from it. That's not what I mean. I mean, that's not a path I'm interested in right now. I've read 80% of it, and I'm into the part where they're really describing. I'm just like, okay, no, I get how this fits together. I'll follow it up later, but I'm more focused on Hermeticism and non-duality Advaita right now, like Vedic mysticism. Those two are my two favorites. I think Kabbalah is great. I have nothing to say negative about it. Just for me, it's not right. That's all. So I don't focus much on it. Will I eventually put everything else down and focus on it? Maybe something will happen and I'll be like, oh man, the Kabbalah has this answer that I didn't have from somewhere else. That could happen. So I'm just not ready for it yet. I'm too busy with these other things. Let's put it this way. I got where I'm at without it. Does it sound like I need it? I'm just saying to get the basic, you don't need it. There's other ways. That's just a good. And Dion Fortune is a fantastic writer. I used to think she was like a hokey, fortune teller lady, because they used to have like the Dion Fortune phone lines or something you could call, because they hoked her all up. Apparently, no, she's pretty fucking legit. She's pretty fucking legit. I got to give her mad credit. Mad credit. Good, Patchy. You're going to love it. It's a cheap book too. I think it's like $10 or something. So, all right, guys, let's get it closed out. Are there any final comments or statements you guys want to make?
I've got nothing right now.
So you just
Yeah.
think I could talk for days.
Shit's wild right now.
Shit is wild. And it's going to get wilder, guys. It's fantastic, dude. In fact, just the opening parts are amazing. You got to read the Prophecy of Thoth. Prophecy of Thoth. You got to read it. In fact, Graham Hancock does a great reading of the Prophecy of Thoth. Or Prophecy of Hermes. I forget which one. This is a similar idea. That's right, Jasonius. Thank you. Initiate with what resonates with you. 100%. Like, I would never tell people don't mess with the Kabbalah. I think Advaita is a quicker path, personally. That's all. I think Advaita just skips a lot of steps. It's just, in a good way. Like, it's like Kabbalah's enlightenment with extra steps. How about that? But some people need those steps. Some people just aren't ready. They need 10 fucking stages. Okay. All right. So, all right, guys, thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed the talk. I'm sorry for dominating everything, but I guess nobody minds. But
No, I had a good time. All right.
It
was good.
Yeah. Billy Carlson I like, but I wonder about him. Sometimes it's like on the, You know what makes me question him is he puts a lot of stock into those new Emerald tablets that were found by that guy who's a little bit shady. I don't know. Basically, the new Emerald tablets to me is basically Book of Mormon for like New Agers. I don't know.
If I log off, is that going to screw anything up?
No, we're done. Guys, thank you very much. I will check you all next week. Oh, and Area Trans, I think Area Trans is going to come on next week probably. So he's got some cool stuff to say. Check his channel out so you get an idea of what we're aiming for next week. So until then, good night, everybody. Sorry, guys.
No, you're totally fine.